the exact point of the so-called radicalization funnel where, for example, Hasan and JT catch them while they're young, as they say.
This big established content creator is interacting with me. I feel special about that.
You have to advocate for a much lighter form of propaganda.
I have a cooperative.
When Hasan says he has a cooperative, he's talking about he has a podcast with other popular streamers where they all share the money.
One thing you have to do is advocate for a lighter form while simultaneously still doing agitated propaganda.
He's lying about the content, and he convinced this kid not to watch it.
Move forwards through the funnel, get more and more radicalized.
Because Hasan is here, he's trying to stop these young people from actually watching the content nuke so that he can grab onto them and latch onto them to pretend that he's reasonable and try to sink them and their career. All right, guys, let's get this party started. I think it was like yesterday or the day before. Dean Withers was on live on TikTok, and Hasan dropped in, and I saw it on my own TikTok, and I popped in and I said, hey, can you ask Hasan why he laughs at the death of children? Because he does. That's the person he is. He runs propaganda. Ethan made a fantastic video. I will link it in the description. That really shows not even just the content nuke, but even showing that like Hasan runs defense for propaganda machines. Like he's it's actually insane. He's a genuinely bad person. He genuinely does not care about the death of, I don't think, anybody. He just likes to justify being hateful. So anyway, he comes on Dean Withers just to, like, you know, try to reach out to a younger audience of young, intelligent people. Dean Withers is a young, intelligent man, so that he can get his grips on them, do what we've seen that Ethan exposed him of doing, which is downplaying how radical left he pretends to be, of like legitimate communism, despite the fact that he does not live that at all. And he tries to pretend that he's more reasonable. And then he apparently has an Ethan crash out. Apparently he crashes out and talks about the content nuke, despite the fact that he has never watched it. He has not watched it yet. Still has not watched it. But you know what? This makes me like Ethan more, because I feel like the pettiness that Ethan comes at shit with is working, because it's wearing Hasan down. And I think people are starting to turn and be more friendly with Ethan, which is a good thing. Okay, I like Ethan. I like him more after this. I feel like he's standing pretty firm in his beliefs here, and I respect the fuck out of it. All right, now all we got to do is just edit, because we watched it in reverse on accident, and we're all set, baby.
What the hell?
Oh my god, bro! There's no way.
No,
That's hilarious.
this is a joke, right?
What's going on, brother?
I wish we started with this. I wish we started with this, guys.
Roll it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Bro, that's kind of crazy.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Hasan.
Just watching us like
Look at how excited they are.
talk about like random drama.
Rolling on my TikTok For You page. I'm sitting here, laying down with Kaya, and right as I'm scrolling, I hear this motherfucker Dean being like, yo, I saw the content nuke. I watched the content nuke, and Hasan was my entry point into, like, doing content on the left. What's up, guys?
Yeah, what's going on, man? I was kind of like talking about how I think that you've done a lot of really good things for people on the left, but I watched like the start of that content nuke. I'm gonna be honest, like I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I saw a lot of bad things in there.
Yeah, because Hasan is a disgusing piece of shit.
And I'm trying to be objective as possible.
I have to this day not watched the full nuke, I will admit.
Because he's a coward.
I only watched a couple pieces of it.
He hasn't. He watched other people reacting to them, because Hasan can't construct arguments against it. He needs other losers to do that.
Hold on, I'm cracking this in. I actually just watched a couple pieces of it today on stream. And
again, he didn't. He watched another person watch it and give weak talking points as to why they were wrong.
from what I saw, it was just the same shit that the sex pestity community is clipped out of context. Stuff like saying that I deny rapes on October 7, and it's
He does.
literally like a 2-second clip. And it's
not.
literally me in the fuller context actually arguing with a chatter who said, how can you claim that rapes could have happened on October 7? And I'm saying, like, no, sexual violence has a tendency to occur in moments like this. So
No, he downplayed it and said that it didn't actually happen, and he doesn't trust Western sources. But okay.
like, I'm not going to immediately dismiss claims of sexual violence happening on October 7. And they clipped the part where I say, even if sexual violence did happen, that doesn't change the dynamic of genocide for me.
That's not what happened
at all. I think it's like completely inappropriate to say
This is the guy that laughs at babies being strangled, so.
that it's, that genocide is permissible because sexual violence occurred. And they clip the part where I say, even if rape doesn't change the dynamic for me about what's going on at all, to make it seem like I'm saying, one, no rapes happen, and two,
Yeah, he's popping up in like a young liberal stream to persuade them not to watch the full content nuke. That is exactly what is happening. Unironically, this is exactly what is happening. That he said that he's hallucinating the rapes, and what rapes did Hamas do? Yes, he downplays it the whole time.
That I don't care if rapes happen.
He doesn't.
It's stuff like that. It's riddled with things like that, and claiming that I'm calling like all Jews inbred or
And it worked. Dean Withers fucking unlisted the stream.
whatever. And I'm talking about specifically the fucking terrorist group, like the JDL terrorist group, destroying aid that was going into Gaza. And then I described the context of the situation where I'm.
That's not in the content nuke. Hasan is making things up about the content nuke. He's talking about where Ethan, for a minute, was criticizing Hasan for assuming that he's calling these Jewish people inbreds. It turns out that they were they were destroying relief to Hamas. In a minute, Dan fact checked him. That was not in the actual content nuke. He's lying about the content nuke. He's actively, intentionally lying about the content nuke on purpose to this fucking kid. And he convinced this kid not to watch it because Hasan is here. Why? Because he's trying to stop these young people from actually watching the content nuke so that he can grab onto them and latch onto them to pretend that he's reasonable and try to sink them and their careers. The reality here is that if these guys start to gravitate and orbit Hasan, that will be the beginning of the end of their careers. It will be a decimation for them. Unironically, they should completely cut off association with Hasan and stay away. I know that they're really excited because a very large content creator pops in and it's like, hey, I'm Hasan, and it's very overwhelming for them, and I can respect that, but they're going to destroy their careers. They're not going to win this one out. They do not want to be part of the Hasan propagandist arm. Will be incredibly dangerous for them if they decide to do that. Hopefully they don't let Hasan catch them while they're young.
I'm like, this is like, if I look at the longer clip from that same time frame, and it's like 30 seconds prior, I'm literally describing like, this is a right-wing settler terrorist group comprised of a bunch of inbred fucking psychos that are going in to destroy aid going into Gaza. And then
this wasn't in the content nuke. He's lying about it being in the content nuke.
He cuts that part to be like, oh, he's calling all Jewish people inbred. It's stuff like that.
He didn't cut that at all. That would happen on the podcast, and Dan immediately corrected him. He's lying on purpose.
The most part. That's basic stuff. If you say anything even remotely pro-Palestinian, you're going to get attacked that way all the time on the internet.
No, you're not. The internet is on the side of Palestine. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sure you guys live stream a lot, so I'm sure you're very familiar with the ways in which sometimes people clip you out of context. But
I'm very familiar with it. Hasan has not been able to defend himself a single time when he's lying right now. He's lying about what's happening right now. That's all he does.
The thing I took offense to, for the most part, was like the liberal Zionist Hasbara that took place, where he said a bunch of like incredibly ahistorical claims, like that were, I think,
like
very insensitive and also demonstrably untrue.
Like what?
Saying that 1 million Jews were displaced from the surrounding Arab regions, like expelled forcibly.
Yeah.
And he called the Nakba like the War of Independence or something along those lines. I can't remember.
I don't even know if that's true. I don't even know what he's referring to. I don't think that was inside there, but okay.
Remember exactly what he said. And
keep in mind when Hasan says something like, I don't even know, I don't really remember what he says, or I don't know if I'm being reductionist right now. He knows that what he's saying is lying and out of context. He does this on purpose. This is not what was. These are not the things. They don't even know what claims he was talking about. What is he talking about?
No, the Nakba was, the forcible expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians from their ancestral homelands from 1947 to 1949. And according to Israeli historian Ilan Pape, this is very well documented. It was Plandallet. It was a well documented ethnic cleansing operation. So it's pretty basic information about the history of Palestine and Israel. So I didn't necessarily care about all the other shit and being like, oh, he loves terrorism. Like, it's just
this entire. I don't remember Ethan saying any of this. Okay, he definitely didn't say the Nakba was the war of independence. He's just lying right now. But okay,
there's a moment where he talks about like Hamas and Hezbollah.
Yeah, I believe the Nakba was when Palestinians were first displaced. Well, just keep in mind, it's like a very complicated thing. Is that the Jews, after being genocided, were given that land by the English. It was their land at that point. So they gave Israel land, or the Jews land that was already contested territory by other Arab nations. And it displaced a bunch of Palestinians. They deserve restitution and reparations, 100%. But it's much more complicated than they want to believe that it is.
And he makes it seem as though these resistance groups just kind of exist in the ether. Like they just kind of existed historically throughout the inception of the nation state of Israel. When
What is he talking about?
both of these are different forms of Palestinian resistance that has evolved throughout time and increasingly become more violent, and violent in ways that I, of course, disagree with as well. But it's anytime I talk about their tactics, or anytime I offer context to how, like, even Hamas itself has evolved throughout history, starting as a Muslim Brotherhood cutout that was a Islamic charity initially, one that actually Israel supported as well, specifically to undermine the secular resistance groups like the PFLP, DFLP, the PLO in its entirety, because they thought that the Islamist fundamentalists would never garner.
So this is like a very popular Hasan thing, is to info dump incorrect information. Constantly talk. Nobody gives a fuck. No, it's a resistance group. We get it. The KKK was a resistance group too. Enough is enough.
Any sort of positive Western support, making it seem as though these are just like groups that are entirely motivated by anti-Semitism and not developed.
Yeah, he's giving us a bunch of info dump on something he didn't watch.
Through the process of 75 years of occupation, death, and destruction. It's all things like that I consider to be ahistorical. I mean, not that I consider it, it's just ahistorical and completely devoid of nuance. And I think it serves the purpose of defending Israel from a more progressive standpoint. It's not something I'm unfamiliar with. I've heard it a million times.
Ethan literally says that like the Palestinian struggle is worse than the Israeli one, but you shouldn't dehumanize Jews. That's his whole take. Wow, hot take. Crazy.
It's not like as egregious as being like, I hope your Bieber is on notice or whatever. Like, I hope Israel kills you. It's not like that. But it's another way to, I guess, tackle the issue while consistently presenting Palestinians as like anti-Semitic terrorists across the board while saying you're pro-Palestinian.
Yeah, I'll say this. So I'm also pro-Palestinian, and
you're a Zoomer.
You are infinitely like more educated and invested in Israel and Palestine than I am.
No, he's not. Just to be clear,
I'm more. I understand the basics, and I just very vehemently disagree with ethnic cleansing, genocide, and unwarranted human death.
wow. So does Ethan.
That's as far as my stance goes.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm pro-Palestine. But I will say, like, I've had conversations with Zionists and individuals that are pro-Israeli on live, and next thing you know, just because I don't necessarily support the existence of an ethno-state that wants to eradicate the existence of surrounding.
Just to be clear, Israel's not an ethno-state. People need to understand that, like, what's happening in Gaza is terrible. It's destructive. It needs to end. Netanyahu's a war criminal. There needs to be reparations to Palestinians. Israel's not an ethnic state. There are 2 million Arabs living there, like, with the same rights. Now, are they being treated exactly the same? I don't know. I would doubt it. I would imagine they might be being treated like second-class citizens the way that we treat black people in America, which is not good. But do you want to know how many Jews are in Palestine? 0. They would be killed. Same thing with gay people and trans people. All right. I don't know, like, what you're talking about. We have to stop throwing around pretend words. Israel is not an ethno-state. There are 2 million fucking Arab people living there. What are you talking about? They do have this. They do have the same rights on paper. Yes, like I just said, they are literally voting. They're holding office. They're athletes. What are you talking about? So, like, you're making pretend points.
Arabs and Arab nations, like, oh, all of a sudden I hate all Jewish people, or because I think that Zionism is bad because it's predicated on colonialism and imperialism. All of a sudden it's anti-Semitic. So
that's not what Zionism is. What are these people talking about? It's like we're doing it's weird revisionist history. Like, absolutely, Palestinians got displaced from their homes and they deserve reparations. But like the Jews went there because they were given that land after they were genocided after World War II. So, I mean, like, it's like a pretend game we play. Are they taking over more land? Absolutely, criticize them for that. But like, they were given that land at a time where land was contested. So that they could settle themselves after 6 million were genocided, and then the European Jews went there, and then non-European Jews went there as well, because every country had like horrible bouts of anti-Semitism. So, okay, cool.
Well, I understand how one could posture a pro-Palestinian view to be anti-Semitic to kind of just diminish the value and support of a human cause.
Yeah.
Well, Hasan literally like laughs when he hears about the Jewish babies being strangled to death. So
I don't know the specifics and the intricacies at all,
clearly.
but I want to learn more, and I want to learn more about you. I do. I really do. I want to finish that content, Nuke. I want to get your takes. From you said you reacted to it on stream. I'll probably do that.
No, I to be fair, I didn't react to the thing in its entirety. And
he reacted to somebody else reacting to like 5 minutes of it.
I might in the future, because I was thinking about maybe bringing in some historians to also talk about it regardless. Because like, at the end of the day, it is,
What is he going to bring a team of people in to react to it for him?
It's important to address a lot of the false claims being made, not necessarily about me being like pro-terror or whatever. That I hear that all the time. That doesn't mean anything. Congressman Richie Torres wrote a letter to Twitch back in the day, like I think a week before his election. He was on the ballot demanding that I get banned because I was like the arch pro-terrorist supporter. Richie Torres, of course, is
Well, you are a pro-terrorist supporter. You pull terrorists on your stream, and you pull terrorist propaganda constantly on your stream.
a massive Israel advocate from one of the poorest districts in the country, and spends most of his time talking about Israel instead of his own constituents. But I get attacked by the ADL and stuff like that. All this stuff is ultimately meaningless. But I do care about the history of it, and I want to make sure that people are not misinformed about how things have taken place, because I think that's what matters. The truth matters more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I can obviously respect the prerogative of valuing truth over all else.
Yeah.
And, I hold the same perspective. And I'm sure that, there's maybe like a handful of people watching that are like, oh my God, Dean, you're sucking up to Hasan.
Yeah, you are.
And you're not.
You guys are.
Well, the problem, this is one of like the biggest issues, is that when you, I'm going to tell you right now, any counter perspective to whatever Hasan is saying about Palestine, where basically Israel does not exist, is going to be like, people are going to have a meltdown, crybaby shit fit about it. And so like, that's why people like Dean just agree. They're like, yes, Israel is like 100% bad. They shouldn't exist. Like, it's an ethno state, even though there's 2 million Arabs living there. Like, it's horrible. It's terrible. It's like, okay, incredible. Like, yeah, because they will be bullied out of that perspective. They're very like audience captured into that.
The arch debate lords. You can take me to task on this issue if you want.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of your content.
I'll call you out. Okay, and I mean that. I will. I see some fuck shit. I'll do it.
Let me tell you guys something, by the way. As someone who was also debated and still every now and then engages in debate.
He doesn't. He gets fucking railed by Christian Walker.
I will say, as a content creator who's been doing this for a very long time, I love what you guys are doing. I will urge you to, consistently end up debating and stuff, but like, I warn against the toxicity that might create for you. And it's good to diversify.
Yeah, you want to make sure you have the toxicity that laughs at Israeli babies getting strangled to death in your chat. And don't ban it. How is this guy going to talk about fucking toxicity?
It's good to diversify your content in general, and like, do React content, more fun stuff, things of that nature, more educational content, because there are a lot of people who enjoy the blood sport of it all, but they don't necessarily care about the truth. They just want to see dunks. And
sorry, Hassan, my bad. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Dean Harry's in the box.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead and get the news.
My bad.
I'm like extraordinarily. Like, when did we get to the part where we were at before? Where is that?
Yeah. So basically, what I'm saying is, like, as someone who did a lot of debate initially, I think that I noticed, at least, like, there's a point where it turns into you basically cultivate a community. I warn against this. You basically cultivate a community of people that just like want slam dunks, and it does become a little toxic, in my experience. Maybe you guys are avoiding that. I don't know how it works on TikTok in general, but I would definitely diversify my content if I were in your shoes.
Well, I agree with you, and I can even expand on that. So apart from the cultivation of this niche that becomes toxic at a point because pro slam dunks, I even like find myself falling into that sometimes. Sometimes somebody will just be pissing me off so much that I'm no longer focused on trying to inform and educate, and I'd just rather slam dunk their ass because they're really upsetting me. But then also kind of like toxicity that it can cultivate outside of like a toxic content creation environment and consumption environment is, God, dude, it does a lot to your mental well-being to just debate people for 4 hours a day. So I'm starting to expand outwards, and hopefully I'll soon be able to get to a point where I'm doing other content apart from debates. It's actually funny because you and the way you do your content, like kind of like doing debates with some reactionary content.
He doesn't do any debates. What are you talking about? What debate does Hasan do?
And other related.
The last debate he did was like 2 years ago with Christian Walker and got fucking railed. What is this guy talking about?
Forms of political information and education-esque content.
Where? What education-esque content? Is he sitting here talking about how it's like downplaying fucking China putting Muslims in camps, or is it when he downplays the genocide of Ukrainians? Like, which part of it is educational, interesting content?
Actually came up in a conversation I was having with somebody that's kind of been helping me. They're like, well, look at Hasan, he's doing it perfect. He does debates and reactionary content, and that's
when does he do debates?
Seems like a much better way to live your life.
Well, for me, like, I have ideological.
Hasan puts people's videos on the stream and walks away. What are you talking about?
Logical purpose, and it's not something that I hide. I've even openly admitted to. I call myself a propagandist on Piers Morgan's show, which everyone always points to.
Yeah, because he intentionally lies about stuff and then plays actual propaganda.
What do you mean you're a propagandist? Like, I don't like. I use propaganda in the old terminology for it. I had a show on the Young Turks back in the day called Agitated Propaganda as well, where my goal is to try to instill class consciousness in the American working class, because I feel like that is what's most lacking from our political discourse in general.
So true, King.
So
Hawk Tua on that thing.
Like, I have an ideological goal. I want Americans to recognize that it's not your neighbors that are fucking you over. It's not undocumented migrants. It's not trans people. It's not DEI. And these things are simply purposeful distractions that reactionary forces utilize while they fucking rob you blind with austerity and an overall refusal to improve your material conditions. Whether that is the Republican Party in many circumstances, or even in other instances, the Democratic Party that refuses to push the needle in the direction of necessary change. So for that purpose, I'm saying I realized that like simply doing debates alone was not cutting it, because I wanted to create a community that was engaged, listening, learning, and also seeking out information on their own.
Oh yeah, he did react to it. He did debate like a child last year, true. And then he debated Willie Mack too. Yeah, you're right.
But more importantly, that they were also engaging in activism, organizing, whether that be community organizing or labor organizing. And I mean, I have a lot of obviously local officials in my chat at a given moment, or even people that apparently work at the DNC, which was shocking to me when I went there. But and of course, many labor union organizers and activists in general. So that's what I mean when I say debates are great for content. It's good for slam dunks. It has an educational value for sure. You get to understand the opposition's position.
It's just so weird because he always talks about how like Destiny is a debate, like pedophile or whatever. And I was like, yeah, debates are great for this. What are you talking about? You hate debates. You don't debate. You're pretending that you do. Like, and it's fine that you don't like debates because they can be very performative sometimes. But
you get to teach people what the talking points are.
Oh, he's referring to his Piers Morgan. Appearances. Gotcha. Okay.
Their talking points are and how to effectively counter them. And I think the takeaway for
yeah, he debated Willie Mack on a video we didn't watch also. So true.
For many in your audience will be how to effectively dismantle those propaganda points and the arguments that your grandparents or your parents might be making or your coworkers are making. But beyond that, I think in order for people to unlock their true potential and be able to bring about real progressive change and create systems of pressure, like mechanisms of pushback, sometimes pushback that's even warranted towards the Democratic Party, I think that there's more to do. And it'll create a more sustainable career for you as well, in general, for all of you guys.
Yeah, so I mean, at least when it comes to my approach, like I agree, like the left as a whole, or like progressives, and like in general, need a multifaceted approach in terms of like the different content people like go towards.
I don't think there's another hour of this. It should be over. We should be all caught up soon. Don't worry. And I also think that like for certain creators, there's going to be certain skill sets that you're going to have where you're going to be able to do a certain set of content very consistently, a lot more if you're interested in it, if you like doing it, and if you can bring the energy every single time. And as it relates to like things like debates, I think that like people like me and Dean, we have a lot more of a pressure and push internally to engage in that particular type of activism and work comparative to other forms, because it comes more naturally to us, or it's some like way we can explain things a little bit more in depth. And one thing I have an issue with in terms of content that's like reaction based or other stuff like that is that there's no back and forth direct sort of response from people. So I think that oftentimes it can create more echo chambers, like naturally, like when you engage in like reaction based content. So I actually think to myself that like, of course, there's going to be people who are just trying to look for slam dunks in terms of debate type content that's live debates. But I mean, I think that would be true for short form content, reaction based content, or any other form of content that would exist on social media. And I think actually is alleviated more when we engage in live debates, because it's like more in person, real. You can humanize people more because you're engaging in direct conversation. That's at least how I view it. But like, I think that, yeah, we should engage in other content.
You're absolutely right. I think there's definitely a space for debating for sure. I'm not discounting that at all. I'm just saying that it's good to diversify your content as well. On top of that, for sustainability in general, and also on top of that, to create a broader community that has more interest, because debates do sometimes have a tendency to just like narrow your focus a little too much. That's all I'm saying. But
I agree with that.
You guys are doing great. Don't get me wrong. You guys are killing it.
Yeah, I guess the way I look at it is, like the only reason like I now have this career where I do like debates for 4 hours a day was because like 2.5 years ago, I decided to load up TikTok at 3 a.m. and join some random person's live and try to convince them that they were wrong and I was right. And then it just kind of like snowballed into what it is now. And kind of like what Parker said, I think that if we want to build this literal fucking machine to get as many people as possible to be more and more progressive, right, and less bigoted, less on the right, further to the left, it requires a very multifaceted approach with a functioning ecosystem of different people that are doing different things. And like when I've had people come up on my live before and be like, "Oh, Dean, you suck. You're just a rage baiter. You do reactionary content that does no good." I guess like on one hand, it's like I should do more for interests to society as well as self-interests. But then on the other hand, it's like, I'm good at this. I'm going to focus on what I'm good at. And there's
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, like to an extent, is a little performative. Like, it's fun, do you? But like when you're calling like really dumb fucking idiots on to your live, like Trump supporters that are uneducated and not really ready for a debate, like, yeah, you're probably not necessarily having a massively positive impact. A lot of it's like political drama and slop, and like I'm part of it too. But it's just kind of what it is.
There's other individuals that will focus on what they're good at. But hopefully, I mean, if this turns into something long term, I'll be good at multiple things.
Yeah. Look, I'm dog shit at gaming. I'm dog shit at gaming. I still play video games on stream because I know that it like brings in a different audience as well. In my line of work, I've realized, especially the position that I'm advocating for, is one that either Americans, especially, are either completely oblivious to and have never heard of it, or are inherently antagonistic to. So charitability is the most important thing. And I think like collaborations and people seeing me in a different light and not just simply clips, because that's just the most common way that people learn about other content creators, is the best way forward. But that's just for me. I'm not saying it's for all of you guys as well. I'm just sharing what I've seen through my experience.
Yeah, of course, man. I feel like I've been talking a lot. Does
Worse, bro. Incredible, bro.
anybody else want to hop in here?
Yeah, who wants to debate me? Harry, you go.
Harry, go ahead. Hasan,
Which one of you agreeable chaps want to debate me?
one time on stream. Well, you referenced Harry as like the DNC shill, and then you referenced me as the car guy. So at least Harry gets a name.
Hasan, do you still think I'm a shill?
I don't know. I haven't seen any of your new stuff, so I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you see Harry as a shill. Yeah.
Let me ask you. No. This is important. What do you think about Hakeem Jeffries' performance so far?
Like, you mean as the minority leader just generally the past couple of years, or since Trump's gotten into office?
Since Trump's coming.
Pretty mediocre. Mediocre.
All right. That's good.
I mean, it's been too weak. I don't like how he's not criticized like Eric Adams.
Yeah.
I think that's fucking insane. I know he's like taking the position of, oh, we have to wait and see if the charges are dismissed. I think that's bullshit. I don't think he's been hard enough on Trump. I really don't like how like Jerry Connolly is leading the Judiciary Committee and not AOC. I think we've been making like some very simple mistakes. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's
Hasan, it is possible to be nuanced. Like the moderate Democrats are too moderate, and the progressive Democrats are too progressive, and you could just be somewhere in the middle.
I have a question too.
What's up?
Okay, and this is because I feel like I've been getting more radical in my views on this topic. But the main critique that I've seen from your supporters, and I think even you called me way too lived out for this when you were reacting to my Jubilee episode.
I think it was the immigration stuff. Maybe.
Immigration policy. Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. So, in accordance with the stance that I either shared on the Jubilee episode, or I could just kind of reiterate my thoughts on immigration now. I'd love for you to tell me why I'm wrong.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. First, we'll start with border policy. So border policy, what I want in my best version of the world is as many ports of entry that operate as efficiently and as quickly as possible.
Sure, with more judges to expedite the process. Like asylum seeking shouldn't take 3 years. It should take like a month.
With screening processes that specifically expel and do not allow people into the country that have committed violent crimes.
Sure.
And then for undocumented migrants that are already in America, for undocumented migrants that have committed violent crimes, to deport them. And for undocumented migrants that have not committed violent crimes, to offer them a pathway to residency or citizenship.
Sorry to cut you off. You don't. Oh, okay. So you don't want to deport undocumented migrants that haven't committed crimes, but undocumented migrants that have committed crimes, you want to deport them.
Specifically violent crimes, yeah.
No, specifically violent. Okay. So I don't disagree with anything that you just said at all. I don't think we're in disagreement in terms of. Well, I guess the only thing that I would disagree with is if an undocumented migrant has caused a violent crime, I would want the American court system to handle it and actually imprison that person rather than allowing them to be free.
Sure, I guess that's fair. Why imprison them?
I don't want rapists to get a trip back home. You know what
are you sure, Hasan?
I mean? And then just be like, all right.
You know what? That's a good point. So if we would do like the deportation of undocumented migrants that have committed violent crimes, it'd be conditional given where they're deported would be where they land in a jail cell.
It's so funny because it's so funny, especially if this is your first video you're watching of me reacting to Hasan. This is all he doesn't believe any of this. Like watching so much Hasan, you see how deceptive and disgusting and how like he's intentionally changing his perspective to seem reasonable to warm up to these people.
I would rather house them in the American carceral structure to ensure that they are actually serving, to ensure that they're just served. Here's a good debate tactic.
Or we could send them back to their country and we could be like, hey, listen, get your shit together and stop fucking around. While we also, I think, help those countries financially. Like, I would rather send them back to their country and give those countries money financially to help them rebuild and to create a strong alliance and to house them here. I think that makes more sense. That's me personally.
That's actually a great argument. That's a great point.
That's a great point, Hasan.
They say, "Oh, I want undocumented migrants that have caused crimes to be deported." Ask them, why do you want rapists to roam free if they fucking did a rape? Why do you not? Let's say an undocumented migrant is like done a heinous.
Cooking with that one. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. You're cooking so hard, Hasan. Maybe we should send them to Israel, Hasan, because you don't seem to care if Israeli people are raped.
Why have I never thought of that?
I haven't thought about that either.
You don't want punishment.
It's so interesting because like what's happening here. I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening here because I've been there before with other content creators. What's happening here right now is that Hasan is a very large content creator, and these young men here are not very educated on who Hasan is and how disgusting he is, and how much he justifies violence, and how much he runs propaganda. They're not aware of that. What they see is they probably know some of the little stuff, but they're not super ingrained in it. And they're young and they're successful content creators, but they're not as successful as Hasan. And now Hasan's jumping in there because they're like, wow, this big established content creator is interacting with me. I feel special about that. That's really cool. I like that a lot. And they're excited. And so like they have a very positive spin. Hasan's there to try to play propaganda. He's there to try to pretend that he's this nice, intelligent guy with reasonable takes. He's not. He's not. He's a violent terrorist propagandist. So I feel bad for these young men.
I want crimes to be punished. That's weird.
So weird.
So that's a nice little debate tactic there. But it is something that I also believe. I want amnesty for all undocumented immigrants that are living on U.S. soil right now, as long as they have not committed like any sort of heinous violent crime. But even
I would say I wouldn't say that necessarily. We need to maintain, like even Bernie Sanders says, we need to maintain our borders. If you're here, I would be fine with giving all undocumented workers that haven't committed violent crimes amnesty if we fix our system at the same time. We have to drastically reduce illegal immigration if we're going to do something like that. And most of that's going to come down to fixing, the asylum seeking process is very difficult. It's very long. It's very slow. So we have to fix that. So I wouldn't be in favor of just like giving them citizenship here unless we had a way, unless we did something that would stop illegal immigrants coming into the country, like moving forward. I'm fine with a reset, but giving amnesty to all illegal immigrants now and then not having a plan to actually stop illegal immigration is the same as if we just wiped all student loan debt. Because it's like, I'm fine with wiping student loan debt if we solve the problem. What's the problem? We're directing kids to schools that they don't really know what the fuck they don't know what they want to do. So we're just having guidance counselors go to school. And it's really expensive. A lot of that's in administrative costs. That doesn't actually help a student or teacher experience. And so kids are racking up tons and tons of debt. They're not being directed to do things that could be beneficial to the economy. They're just being told like, hey, go do a thing you like, which is nice. But like at the end of the day, people like me, when I was 18, if you said, hey, you should go to school to be do HVAC, you'll make good money. And if when you get older, you could change your mind and you'll have the money to go back to school. Oh, cool. I didn't know what I want to do at 7. They told you at 16 and 17 to start thinking about what you want to do for the rest of your life. It's insane. And so some people just need the guidance of like, hey, this can make you good money. You might be like, oh, cool. Like I wouldn't care. I don't need to be passionate about my job. I would like to have the money to be passionate about a hobby. But we don't have, you know what I mean? But like our system is flawed. And so like erasing student loan debt, what does that do for us unless we actually fix the problem in the first place?
Even when we entertain the notion that like we're deporting violent criminals or the Trump administration is like going after violent criminals,
the dog's killed me.
I think you guys all know
that was Hasan's dog, and it actually wasn't killing me because it's already dead.
That's not the case.
No,
It's not like the previous administration was like, oh, are you Guatemalan and you did a rape? Okay, sorry, we can't arrest you. Like that's so fucking stupid. Like no, of course, being arrested and being prosecuted, right? So. I
wonder if we'll find Papa Gut in here. If somebody sees me in the description, in the captions here, tell me, okay? Tell me.
That notion is like that premise that they operate off of is like a faulty hidden premise. The idea that like the Biden administration was not adequately targeting people that have done crimes, regardless of their immigration status, and that's precisely the reason why.
I should have requested to join. I sat here and I thought about it, but I'm like, I don't really feel like doing this right now. I would have probably not have gotten in, but like I have enough clout on TikTok for them to potentially put me in there. I have enough TikTok clout because I have like 730,000 followers. So I think that there would be a shot if I was like, yo, get me in on this. There was a better shot than most. There was a better shot than most that I would have been able to get into this live stream. But I was sitting on my bed naked. My wife was rubbing my back and my ass because, my butt hurts. And I should have just done it, dude. I could have been in here. I could have legitimately been in this fucking conversation, and I could have confronted Hasan on him being a vile piece of shit that takes advantage of young people who are aware that the system is flawed and mentally warps them. I wish I did it. I really do.
I believe it was the Associated Press that came out with initial reporting that the majority of the undocumented migrants that have been deported so far, some of which aren't even undocumented, by the way. They are deporting documented non-citizens and undocumented non-citizens.
Well, what is a documented non-citizen? Is it somebody that they're aware of that's here illegally? I don't know.
And the majority of them had not committed any crimes. And a big chunk of those who had actually done crimes had done shit like trespassing. You know what I mean? Or obstructing justice, like ridiculous, erroneous claims that normally would be thrown out under any other circumstance. And
I was under the impression that majority of individuals that they've deported so far were individuals that have been documented as committing a crime or a violent crime. But the reason why that's the case is not because they wanted to only or focus on the deportation of undocumented migrants who have committed crimes, but rather those were just the easiest undocumented migrants.
oh, are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I would imagine, and I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like super educated on who exactly Trump is trying to get the boot out of, but it's all about numbers. The Trump administration is worthless dog shit. They want to look like they're doing something. So when it comes to deporting people, they're probably just deporting whoever they can to make the numbers look nice. That's why the Doge is actively lying about the money that they're saving. They've had to retract like their top 5 biggest money savers because they were lies. They had no proof to them in any capacity. That's what's going on. They're pathetic. They're not doing anything meaningful at any capacity.
Yeah, the ones that are in the prison system already. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and like the misconstruction from Trump supporters, creating a narrative that because for the
You hear
first
how
week,
excited they are?
800 out of 1,000 deportations were from individuals that were already in the
hear how
prison
excited
system.
these
You know
guys
what I mean?
are?
They deported people that were already in the prison system, and that's why they like Tom Homan is talking about setting up a facility inside of Rikers in New York because they want to just like quickly, expeditiously deport any undocumented migrant that's done a crime. I still think it's ridiculous to do that. I think it's better to serve justice rather than just like give people a free trip back home.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah, where they're free. I totally agree with that. Yeah, you're totally right when it comes to that. So it's totally, they would have to justify that the deportations wouldn't have freed people right into other places around the world because seemingly they would care about those places. Yeah. I mean, they would probably say some crazy shit like they don't give a fuck in most circumstances if you got someone who's not going to lie.
Republicans are insane. But the other secondary problem with the deportation of criminals is mass destabilization.
Sure, we have a lot of illegal immigrants that we are dependent on job-wise. That's number one. Farming jobs that people don't want to do, like American citizens. And then even if people come here and they go on welfare services, so you have to understand that when people go on welfare services, it's good for the economy. It might not be good for laziness, but it's good for the economy. If you have, 10,000 people here that get $1,000 a month, or let's even say $100 a month, that money, especially when you're poor, is pretty much all going to be going into the system. And so let's say you get like food stamps for like $100 or $200 a month or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're going to go to grocery stores and you're going to pay for food, and that's going to support the supermarket. That's going to support the people that work at the supermarket. That's going to support the people that are driving trucks to the supermarket, that are manufacturing for the supermarket. And so mass kicking out illegal immigrants, and I understand the frustration because they shouldn't be here. Then again, they are just trying to live. I can respect that as long as they're not violent criminals. But mass deporting these people who are working or getting welfare benefits, like, it will destabilize the economy. That is just a fact of the matter. That is a reality of the world. So if we do that, we're going to lose American jobs because they're going to have to cut jobs in supermarkets and things like of that nature.
In the country that you're sending them back to, especially if you look at MS-13, if you look at the history of El Salvador, MS-13 is an is an El Salvadoran gang that was born out of undocumented migrants from El Salvador having to resort to gang violence and criminal activity in an effort
maybe
to make ends meet. And then they got...
It's so interesting because there might be a level of truth there, but there's always this hint of like gangs are okay. Like, we can acknowledge that some people might feel pressured into joining a gang infrastructure, and we should acknowledge that. But I don't know, man. Just listen to the way Hasan talks, especially since he like broadcasts like the actual terrorist propaganda, and he downplays. Like the other day, we watched that video where Hasan was talking, where there was a captive who was let out, an October 7th captive that was let out, and then the propagandist, the Hamas propagandist, made him kiss 2 guys on stage on the head, like, oh, he actually loves us, and Hasan's like, oh, ha ha ha, see, they must have loved it being captives. Then, of course, Ethan shows that there was a propagandist leader that was making them do that, and then showed what the guy said, like, oh, these dogs made me kiss them. But Hasan doesn't care about that. He's just trying to run defense for terrorists. He's trying, and which MS-13 would be considered like a type of terrorist. It's an anti-Western terrorist. That's all he cares about. And so when he talks about it, it just seems more like a downplay than an intelligent conversation.
Got incredibly radicalized in the...
Yeah, when Hasan tells you the truth, it feels like he's deceiving you. Because I think that he is. Because the intentionality isn't to have this intelligent, like, conversation about the way that people act and how they get pushed into certain demographics or categories. He just seems to be there to talk about how bad the West is, even when he's not explicitly saying it.
California prison structure, and then...
Whoa, this is pretty cool there, Dean. Wow. I just love this picture. We got to get that. We got to get that picture. That's a thumbnail picture if I ever saw it. That is a thumbnail picture.
American government sent them back to El Salvador without telling the El Salvadoran government that they were fucking criminals. And lo and behold, they now
I have no idea if any of this is true, because it might not be. Hasan likes to lie a lot.
had a network where they could engage in international crime back and forth with the United States of America and basically overtook the government. I'm being a little reductive in the way that I'm explaining the story, but
Yeah,
that's the secondary
That's him telling us that he's lying.
problem of just like mass releasing criminals. Not saying that like the 800
None of this is true, by the way. Like it's not true that they didn't know that they were criminals. I don't know why he's lying about that. I'm looking it up. In 2018, ICE removed MS-13 members wanted in El Salvador and transferred them to ICE, to El Salvadorian authorities. Who is he talking about?
people that they deported initially were all like MS-13 style criminals or whatever. But ultimately, there's also that additional issue as well when you engage in mass deportations of criminals too.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't think that we would disagree on immigration then.
This is not true. I don't even know why he's lying about this. Like, why lie about this? This isn't even true at all. We didn't release MS-13 gang members to El Salvador without telling them. What are you talking about?
I think a lot of our disagreements would probably be like on our liberal views. Like, are you like a socialist that like prioritizes cooperatives or like state or like command control?
Well, I have a cooperative, but
What is that? What cooperative do you... Just to be clear, when Hasan says he has a cooperative, he's talking about he has a podcast with other popular streamers where they all share the money. He doesn't have an actual cooperative. He doesn't have like a co-op. He doesn't have like a business where he actually shares the revenue in a meaningful way. He doesn't own a 7-Eleven that splits the revenue, which, by the way, would be a great idea. That'd be fantastic. That's something that I've been thinking about potentially. If I can become much more financially successful, investing and starting a change of like specifically gas station like convenience stores, and doing something where I pay people minimum wage plus a percentage of the profits. I think that would be fantastic. I think that's the way of the future, and I think you can only do that by actually investing in businesses like that. Hasan's not talking about that. Hasan doesn't have a co-op. He has a podcast. He has a podcast with a bunch of people, and he calls it a co-op. It's not a co-op. He's just lying. He's just lying to you.
that on top of that, no, I do believe in state control. I mean, I think
That's why he doesn't specifically say things. He's like, I have a co-op, but he doesn't explain because his co-op is a fucking podcast.
we already have state control in general in America as well. It's just that the incentive structure revolves around subsidies to mega corporations, and instead of the state executing any sort of centralized planning with like a multiple decade policy in mind, we're just kind of operating on quarterly returns. Like we're just trying to maximize corporate profit. So there is still a level of state control. There's no true libertarian enterprise in this country, or in any country really. Of course, there has to be state control to a certain degree in order to maintain prices, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that there isn't like no state control, but like, are you arguing that like the predominant factor of the economy would be the state control or like the cooperative control? Like, are you like someone who would believe that there should be some cooperatives based on markets, or just eradicate markets entirely?
I like cooperatives, and I think that there is a middle ground with like some market solutions, while still making sure that the state has the public best interest in mind in terms of creating commodities.
Okay, and then here my question is: would you then like mandate there either as cooperatives or it's state control? Like if you had the ability to control that?
You guys are saying that Hasan's somebody said that Hasan's merch is a co-op. I cannot find a single thing that supports that his merch is a co-op. I'm trying to find it on his website. Like, it'd be nice if he had an explanation on there. Because if that's the case, then like I'm wrong about that. But I'm trying to find that, and I'm not finding anything on there. If somebody wants to send that to me, that's fine. But like, how come I can't find like, hey, there should be like a rundown of like, oh, this is a cooperative business where we give percentage of the blah 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 blah.
If I had the ability to control it, would I mandate every single corporate structure to be a cooperative structure?
Or like it would be state controlled, like nationalized?
Yeah. I think that the government should provide, at least in the interim, the government should provide basic necessities like shelter.
I don't think that it is. I think I can't find anything that's even suggests that. I just know it's union made. That might be true. It might be union made, but a co-op, that's a difference than a union made. Ethan spoke about saying it's not a co-op. I doubt it's co-op. He's talking about his fucking podcast. I'm telling you.
and become a market competitor, which would be unfair for the market.
I mean, here's the thing. All this stuff, when we talk about this, what's the next step is really what we need to talk about. And the next step is how do we embolden the middle class? And there's different solutions. You could try to run some kind of like union, like a unionized every job. I think we should implement a universal basic income. I think that would be the best way to go personally. What is the most reasonable next step? Taxing rich people much more. Taxing businesses more, especially businesses that use technology, certain technologies like self-checkouts. Right, to tax a self-checkout 10 cents every time someone uses it or something, you know? And then redistributing that wealth. Healthcare, great way to do that as well. You know, things of that nature.
Certainly, with the sole purpose of eventually eradicating certain necessary commodities from the private structure. You can have personal property all day, every day, of course, and even luxury goods or whatever kind of accommodations that you desire. But ultimately, it's more so rent seeking that I'm against. It's more so private property that I think is not good and creates.
Sure. One of the issues with private property that people should keep in mind is that there is a limited space for people to live. And when I say that, people are like, no, there's not. The United States, we're talking about us specifically. Huge. There's tons of like unlived land. That's 1,000% true. There are no jobs around that, right? And so it's very difficult to figure out exactly how to make housing more accessible and cheaper. Part of it is that people are living in bigger houses. Part of that is that rich people are buying houses, doing shit remakes on them or refurbishments on them that make them look nice, but they break down in 5 years, and then selling them off for like an egregious amount of money in an area where people need to live to work a job. In my opinion, one way that you could really, really meaningfully make houses cheaper is by making us inhabit the land that nobody's inhabiting. How do you do that? How do you build an economy or a local economy in an area where there's no real job opportunity? A universal basic income, allowing people to work from wherever they want, right? If you have more money to pump into a system, you can go live in fucking bumfuck wherever, and you could build a town there on a UBI and have that be dependent onto that, and like jobs will start to be created. It's something to think about.
Is at the heart of all of this inequality. But this is stuff that's never going to happen in my lifetime, I don't think. I'm simply trying to move in the direction, at least in the short term,
in the direction of hating America and all Western everything.
In the direction of modest reforms that genuinely improve people's lives.
So then my thoughts are that, like, it sounds like your goals are you want to achieve this in the future, but your thoughts are that you were not even close or even at that point at all entirely. So pragmatically, you're just going to end up being like a social democrat.
No, he's a democratic socialist, guys. He's not just a social democrat. That's Ethan, I suppose, myself are.
Yeah, what I advocate for, my most radical perspectives don't come from domestic policy. It's usually
how America, Israeli women deserve to be raped, basically.
Anti-imperialist positions that cause a lot of ire in, especially in the minds of a lot of Americans. But yeah, as far as like,
in Australia, they give tax credits to people who build new houses. That's not a bad idea. But still, it's like you get a tax credit, but like, how do you have the infrastructure? Unless everybody starts streaming, dude, and then you can live wherever you want.
As far as domestic policy goes, yeah, I mean, I'm an advocate for nationalized healthcare structure.
Yeah,
I'm an advocate for socialized medicine in general, public housing in general. But these are, I would say, relatively modest reforms that exist in one way, shape, or form in other social democracies in Europe, even though they are running into the same problems with the parasitic nature of capital in terms of social democracy.
Papa Hasan said recently that if you listen to him, you'll come to the conclusion he's a social democrat. Hasan is not a social democrat. He's literally talked about this. He pretends to be more of a more reasonable perspective so that he can fucking get people into his ideology of anti-West. What are you talking about? Like, we've literally watched it. I think you're trolling me. Fuck you.
Democracy is basically clawing back all of these social safety nets year over year with austerity measures, with the inevitable goal is privatization. And
just to be clear, Hasan, as like a crybaby, did not endorse Kamala Harris and say, guys, you should get out and vote for her. He didn't try to get anybody to do that. He actually recommended against it, recommended people to kind of just do nothing and allow Trump to win. So, he can sit here. This is the problem, is that when you have Hasan, who, when it comes to, when it boils down to it, there's Kamala Harris and Trump. Kamala was the better choice. Instead of advocating for her, he advocated for people to just not care and say, "Oh, well, she was bad, and she wasn't gonna be perfect for Gaza, so we're not going to vote for her. And he didn't do anything to like urge his followers to go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote. Okay, and you want to know why? Here's why I think he did it: because he likes that Trump takes away people's rights and tries to destroy the lower middle class. Because what is Hasan's entire selling point? It's to go after especially young people who feel very disenfranchised by the system, to get them into his audience so he could try to radicalize them. He has no other talents. Okay, if he can't talk about political drama, because he's not a political person, he's a drama person. If he can't talk about political drama, there's nothing else that he can do. He's not intelligent. He's not reasonable. Everything is very anti-West. He's got nothing. He needs everything to be crumbling in America for him to survive. There's nothing else there. So he does this on purpose. That's what I think, at least.
And that is part of the reason why I think that, I'm, I guess, a little bit more radical in the long term with what I believe. But yes, in the short term, I advocate mostly for modest social democratic proposals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, So I mean, it practically, in terms of domestic policy, sounds like we're like practically on like the same side and whatnot. Obviously, like that's why I like to pretty much agree in terms of all like the policies and the people that we support and stuff.
Yeah, we did.
I feel like a lot of leftists get really focused on like everyone agreeing on like those like sort of, I don't want to call them fringe economically related issues, but they're like, it's really like definitions and stuff. It's not like we don't pragmatically disagree. We get really focused on like, oh, we have that type of disagreement, when we're in reality arguing, at least in the time period, for the same thing.
Yeah. Well, the reasons for why I advocate for these things might be a little different than yours, aside from like genuinely improving people's lives. And this is another thing that I'm not like secretive about, but I see a noticeable lack of class consciousness in the American working class in general. There is tremendous class consciousness for capital owners, whether they even recognize it or not, and they don't even need to have class consciousness because the system is structured to benefit their needs regardless, and to continue their position as generating engaging in capital accumulation. The entire system is designed in that way. But the reasons as to why I think it's important to be able to do this is because I want labor unions and labor militancy to at least exist in this country, so that there's a valid mechanism of pushback against.
Will I do a TikTok live and debate people? I don't know, dude. I mean, like, I guess I could go live on TikTok and start fucking around, but I don't know if I have like the desire to go on and just debate a bunch of people.
Politicians on the Republican side of the spectrum, certainly, but even on the Democratic side as well, because I think there's never been a moment throughout American history or history at all where concessions were given to the working class, whether it be the fucking weekends or whether it be, paid leave or any of those things, or the abolition of child labor, without.
I have no idea who these two are. I've seen Harry Sisson before. I've seen this young guy before. And obviously I know who Dean is, but I have no idea who Chris Mowry is, or Rockin' Little whatever the fuck.
Real labor militancy.
These guys look like they have a lot of life experience. Yeah, that's one of the unfortunate realities. I mean, Hasan has always been rich his entire life. That's how he bought his citizenship here. The rest of these guys are young people, and one of the and God bless them because they're intelligent. But one of the problems with young people advocating for things, and it's not even a problem for them advocating for it, it's a problem for people listening, is that I think it's difficult for a lot of people, especially your average American, to listen to like an 18 or a 19 or a 20-year-old talk about the world, even if they're right, because they haven't experienced it in a particularly meaningful way. If I was going to sit here and listen to a lecture from somebody about how we need to make the world a better place for people, I'm not going to listen to the millionaire whose parents are so rich they were able to get him to be born in America so that he had citizenship and then go back and live very richly in Turkey and then come back here when he was 18 so he could live a cushy life where everything was handed to him. His uncle gave him his first job at the Young Turks, and he's literally had nepotism his entire life. I'll never listen to this person. Unrelatable. When it comes to these young men like Harry Sisson and Dean Withers and this guy, I forget his name, and I don't know what the fuck these two are, whatever. They're young. You guys haven't probably experienced the system. So anything that you're saying about the system doesn't mean it's wrong, but you have never lived it. I'm 34 years old, and for like a decade, I worked at a bus company. I was a lead bus appearance maintainer for half of that. Okay. I cleaned buses, and I did it through COVID too, which was very important because people needed to get to their dialysis appointments, and we disinfected every bus every day. It was a lot of work, and I was proud of the work, but I don't feel that I was paid as well, and I wasn't treated as well. You know, they were taking away benefits of mine, like my vacation, despite the fact that they were supposed to give it to me more. My union did nothing to protect me. Our pay scale was the only pay scale in the company that didn't go up with years of service. It went up because everybody's pay goes up every year, but then the baseline goes up to adjust with inflation, and then based on your years of service, up to 10 years, you'll get more pay. We didn't have that. The union wasn't interested in working with me for that. Part of it's because I worked with the union rep's son, and his son was a dog shit worker. He's a nice guy, but he was a terrible worker, and we had conflict because I was his boss, and so they didn't care to. And so, like, you know, things are rough, and I've been in situations where, you know, I could use more money, and things were tough. It was tough to live. And so I imagine people maybe would feel a little more comfortable listening to somebody like that. Like, I had a guy who worked with me, Hispanic guy he was legal from El Salvador, and he worked 2 fucking jobs. And it's like, that's the guy that I'm going to listen to when he's complaining about how hard it is to be middle class. Probably not a bunch of young kids. That's just me personally. You know, and I think that's one of the disconnects why people don't listen. When they hear things from these young people, they mean well, but they don't have the life experience that really relates to your average middle class American.
That has simply never happened. And the same goes for social struggles as well. Same goes for civil rights. Like, militancy is an absolute necessity. And I see the American working class as completely removed from that conversation, where they just understandably see themselves as powerless in this structure. And I think that breeds resentment, hostility, and it creates, paired up with the economic volatility that many Americans experience, that creates a perfect ground for right-wing reactionary fascist movements to grow. And that's what we're seeing in America.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with that. So I'm not as educated on economics as Parker is, but what I will say is seemingly that's compatible with like a social democrat model to like advocate for more class consciousness, to like get more social reform.
Oh, he means that's okay. I got you.
Better programs for individuals and the low middle class, and create economic policy in which centers the average citizen or constituent of a country.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I agree with that. I wonder how you would get there. So, seems nice. It sounds nice to hear these things. Like, how do we meaningfully implement that
compared to those who have the most money? But I will say, maybe the more we advocate for class consciousness, the more I educate myself on like this paradigm of conflicts between classes of wealth and how to effectively resolve them. Maybe that just naturally leads you down this pathway of becoming just completely radicalized socialists.
But I don't think that's.
Maybe.
I don't think
Well, they're also young too, so they're radicalized socialists right now. They'll probably become a little more meaningful or reasonable as time goes on. Still more left leaning, which is the right way to be. But
I joke and I say I have radical beliefs, but
Hasan does have radical beliefs. We've seen him admit this already.
What's the saying? I'm
sorry, that was a play on words. I was joking too.
No. It's by no measure of mental wellness to be well adjusted to a completely insane.
No, sorry. The live itself, the audio is not necessarily sunk. That's not on me. Really. This is just the recording.
Society, think about it that way, where advocacy for socialized medicine is seen as a bridge too far for many Americans who are so heavily propagandized, no matter how brilliant they fancy themselves to be.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I agree with that. I don't think Hasan has a meaningful solution to what the next step is when it comes to our healthcare. When it comes to our healthcare, I think the most reasonable and decent next step is that we implement a Medicare for all type strategy, some kind of an option, a public option, a governmental option, where they say, hey, listen, you could pay based on your income and you'll have this decent healthcare. They'll give like a bare minimum amount of healthcare or a decent amount of healthcare. Like you go to doctors, blah, 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 blah. And then you still allow the private healthcare sector. And if the public insurance is better, people will gravitate away from private, and private's going to have to figure out a way to maintain themselves. So maybe they'll just have like supplemental insurance, or it'll suck. And we still have our private insurance so that if it does suck, we don't fall completely flat. Right? Like that's the way that I would do it, which makes a little bit more sense.
Independent thinkers who think that social medicine means we're going to do Venezuela style rat eating in America or whatever the fuck, right?
I'd eat a rat as long as it was clean.
So I wouldn't necessarily say it's radicalization, more so an evolution by recognizing the understandable contradictions that are baked into capitalism. Because capitalism was an advancement from the previous mode of commodity production for sure. But most of even what Marx talks about in terms of capitalism is not necessarily, attacking capitalism at all, but instead simply describing capitalism with dialectics, like through the assessment of, and you know, you might think it's a little bit reductive at this point, but like through an assessment of like capital accumulators, the capital owners, the bourgeoisie, and the workers that are wage laborers in general, the proletariat. So that's just, it's more so a description of how things are, and not necessarily like moralizing a certain position that, like, you know, workers are always good, or they always do the right things, or anything like that. There's no good bad dynamics there at all. And instead, it's just,
What the fuck is he talking? I don't even understand what the. I don't know. Okay, sorry, because if you don't really watch me, and especially watching Hasan, you're gonna be like, "What are you talking about? He's just talking. He's just giving word soup. Like, what are you saying? Oh, the workers aren't always good. Oh, I like, what point are we? What do we build from this? I think that the undertone is that capitalism isn't necessarily bad, or what business owners aren't necessarily bad. I'm not understanding what the point of this conversation is, other than to try to use big words to sound intelligent. None of these words make any meaningful sense.
just about describing how capital is accumulated. What's that?
Dean just got hit with a.
I'm having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, hit with technical.
Got hit with a meteor, dude.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts
I don't
on.
understand how glorious Xi Jinping's application TikTok would do this right as I'm talking about abolishing the commodity form.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh, wait a minute. All right, apparently this one is actually sunk correctly. We'll just continue where we left off.
Yeah, I guess where I'm coming from, and I'm coming from someone who used to be a socialist myself for a pretty long time, and I actually started my whole content creation like.
What do you mean a long time? You're like 20 years old.
Creating like leftist and socialist content, is that like a lot of these issues that exist, I think, can be solved.
God bless them. They're well-meaning, but like, what is a long time? You're a young guy. You're a kid.
Solved with social democracy, and a lot of people say that there's like issues with social democracy. It starts to corrupt. People start to fight and advocate against it. But I don't think that's a critique against social democracy in of itself. I think that just means that you just need to maintain social democracy in the same type of way like we maintain our democracy.
Well, no. Yeah, no, yes. I don't know. Listen, people are bad. People are bad. Capitalism in its purest form is perfect. You don't know it's not. Yes, it is. If people were good, capitalism would be good too. People aren't good. So people find a way to take advantage of capitalism very easily. Communism, same thing. Communism, perfect. It's perfect. But people are bad, and they take advantage of communism, right? Anytime you have the ability to centralize power in any way, it's going to turn bad. People are very easy to corrupt. So people need to have like limits put in place for ourselves.
Oh man, social democracy hasn't been tried.
That's why these things don't work. Because we have to make sure that we maintain the context of the human condition.
Well, I mean, like we could say that like we don't think that this real certain form has been tried, and I think that it's cool. But like my argument would then be is that we'd have to try it on smaller levels to be able to see whether or not it works on a larger form. In order,
That's good, baby love. I'm proud of you.
in order to be able to say that like it's actually effective. I don't think we'd be able to say that we should adopt it on some sort of globalized production model if it is the case that we don't have any type of level of actual probabilistic means of demonstrating how likely it is that it's going to be beneficial for workers or for people.
You know how you know these guys are young? Because he's eating turkey on stream instead of popping antacids like a real man. If you don't have, here's my new rule: if you don't have heartburn problems, then you're not old enough to talk about politics. Okay.
We could actually like hurt
Yeah, anarchism where there's no centralized power. True.
some of our concerns, like quality of life for workers. If we don't take that into account when we're like applying these sorts of systems, if we don't know what the empirical effect is of these different types of theoretical models, not to say that theoretical models can't be then used or seem to be effective later on.
This guy eats like a girl. Sorry, am I being too weird? Covering your mouth? Just fucking get food all over yourself like a sloppy, disgusting animal. You know, like I do. Get it in your beard, save it for later, pick it out. You know what I mean?
But it's like we just need evidence to indicate that these particular models are effective before we establish it on such a pragmatic basis worldwide, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we're not.
Sure. You could, and what that basically means is like, hey, we need to take small steps. Like when we get down to it, like this is kind of just like a philosophical like masturbation conversation. What's the next step? We don't have to have conversations about 15 steps for now. Maybe we will be communism one day. I don't give a fuck. That's fine. But like we have to make sure we get there the right way, right? So what's the next step? That's it.
We're not getting there anytime soon anyway. I'm not saying like tomorrow with a magic wand we are going to dissolve the class structure and live in a moneyless, classless, stateless society.
Did anybody find me the video of Hasan half squatting yet? I really want you guys to. If somebody can find that for me, I'll be very grateful.
You know,
Yeah, my thoughts even then, like, would even a stateless society be like desirable in the future? Like, even if we hit like full automation. So I don't want to like full on socialist debate you, but like, even if we hit full automation, like, would it even be desirable for us to get rid of that? Like, because we still want a state to like limit people from committing crimes, right?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'm not a communist, so I think that like I can't even imagine what that would look like.
He kind of is, or he pretends to be, but so it doesn't matter.
In general. But the way I explain it is like I'm not opposed to it. You know,
I'm not a communist. I'm just not opposed to it. Again, keep in mind that he downplays his perspective. Yeah,
I wouldn't say I'm a communist, but I wouldn't say that I'm opposed to a stateless, moneyless society, a borderless society.
I wouldn't say I'm a communist, but I am. Right? Okay.
Okay. Would you be against like the enforcement of certain types of laws? Like once we meet that society,
No
like
shit.
I feel like in a communist society, there's no government that would enforce laws against like pedophilia.
Yeah, we probably should not have that. It's bad.
Like that would be true, right?
No,
I guess. What is happening? Why the fuck are we talking about pedophilia? This is what I want to talk about. Like, why are we having these conversations? Like, what the fuck is why are we having conversations about whether we should be communist? What is happening here?
yes, obviously. I'm. That's why I'm saying I'm not a communist. But if society evolved in a way where we're talking so far out there, like we're now talking about
Yeah, he was just citing Karl Marx. Yes, he's communist. Yeah.
theoretically
I'm so scared.
what it would
The
look
only red wave I'm scared of is my wife's period. Because it tastes so good. Okay. All right. Stop that.
like, right? We're basically fantasizing about a world that is from where I'm standing impossible to imagine. But I think like the argument, I guess, would be that one, obviously, most crime in general, with the exception of like antisocial personality disorder related crimes, are like psychopathy or sociopathy, like
Maybe.
things like that. Crimes born out of crimes that might be born out of like mental problems, and not the
I mean, that might be true. I don't know, because in poor areas where there's gangs, not everybody in the poor area is part of the gang. So there's probably a much more complicated conversation to have, but sure. The circumstances you're in are a problem. Then again, you have blue collar crimes where people that are, or white collar crimes where people who are in perfectly fine situations are still committing crimes. So I don't know if that's necessarily true, but maybe.
to say that like people with mental health issues are criminals or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. But with the exception of those, like most crime is done because of financial circumstances, like your material conditions create a
Maybe.
likelihood for you to go out and do crime. And I think the argument there is that like in that structure, it's already all of your needs are
I don't know. When you kind of think about it, I feel like most crimes are running stop signs.
addressed anyway. So the only remaining crime would possibly be, like you said, pedophilia, which I guess at that stage, medical advancements would have found a solution for that as well. Like
How? What does that mean? Medical advancements will have found a solution for that? What does that mean? I'm just curious because okay, again, I understand some people think I'm being unreasonable. But, like, I don't think that he thinks anything that he's saying. I think he's like, yeah, they probably would figure that out. How? What were they going to do? Are they going to go into, like, the brain and, like, cut a part of the brain out? Are they going to, like, medically castrate people? Are we going to figure out how to identify pedophiles? How do we do that? And I'm only asking this because I told people already, like, Hasan is constantly spewing nonsense. How do you do that? But how do you take it out of your brain? How do you take, like, what do you do? Will we have solved, like, alcoholism? Is there, like, a level of eugenics there? Do we have lolly robots going around? Do we have shock collars around, like, your balls that, like, fucking shock your balls when you're around a kid? Like, what does that mean? What is the medical solution? I'm curious what does that mean? Because he just talks to sound smart all the time.
I'm assuming that's what it would look like if I were to envision a communist society.
Okay.
So the concept of crime in and of itself would be
No pedophiles.
entirely destroyed, considering that the overwhelming majority
It
of
just sounds like heaven. Like, literally, it sounds like you guys, instead of praising God, you praise, like, communism. This is not going to
Crime
happen.
is
There's
born.
no, like, magical society where crime will be gone. Yeah, the communism brain scooper. We still need protective measures in place to identify people.
out of material conditions.
I mean, you can
yeah,
also
I mean-
just appeal to some libertarian enforcement mechanism, right? Don't forget
please.
those. Don't forget those collectives, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a libertarian by any means.
Yeah,
so
he was making a joke. Thank you, Hasan.
and that's part, like I'm a state enjoyer. I often, especially in this past month, I've been talking quite a bit about how we should have 1 million more government employees. I think it's fucking ridiculous that we're trying to cut government employees rather than hire more people for the government. I think
To do what? I'm just curious. Like, what does that mean?
I think that's that's one of the biggest problems in America is that we don't have enough people doing jobs in general.
Sure, I mean, I could agree with that. Jobs are disappearing. I don't think that. My thing is I'm not for systems that forcefully create. The one thing I like about capitalism is that it can kind of fill holes where holes might be needed. The government does great for certain things. Like I think that healthcare, they would do fantastic with healthcare and building bridges and roads and highways. I think that like the capitalist aspect can do great at filling in holes. Like, oh, we need this. We can adjust to needing this more quickly. And the only reason I say that is because instead of creating more jobs that we don't necessarily have the need to create, why don't we create something like, let's say, a universal basic income that gives people money to do what they want with that money, right? So maybe you quit your job and one of you works, one of you goes, one of you doesn't, and you take care of your own kids and you spend the money how you want to spend money. And now that you have some more money, you can open up your own little small business and see how that goes. And since other people have more money, maybe they'll buy into your small business. You can all of a sudden turn your little baking cake shop or like out of your house into like an actual business front. And then you don't have to necessarily pay your workers so much money that you couldn't compete with because there's a UBI. So like now your small business can compete with big businesses that can afford to pay more. And then you have universal healthcare as well. So you don't have to worry about that. And so now, but you see how these things can like kind of spin off, and we can allow people and their freedom, their ability and their freedom of expression to kind of come out and create new jobs potentially in infrastructure. That makes more sense than like, hey, let's just create jobs that we don't necessarily know what what are they going to do? Oh, we'll just have a guy who stands around. We're gonna have people who hold signs, you know, at job sites. That's like, go slow when you're driving. So it's like we don't necessarily need to forcefully create new jobs. Like we should create the circumstances that allows for people to create their own jobs based on their expression. Right? That's what I would say.
Any area, like I'll give you the TSA as an example. I flew into Salt Lake City for the day to shoot a podcast with my co-host.
What if market raises prices to compensate for UBI? I mean, like, listen, all of this is like theoretical, but I don't think, like, of course, inflation is going to go up. More money is going to be into the economy, but at the same time, like, more money in the economy is literally the United States. The United States, everybody has, like, our poor in the United States is not even close to the same as other people. So money would go up, or prices might go up, but I don't think that they would go up so drastically, especially specifically in like some consumer markets. Like I don't see a huge problem. I would see a big problem in rent. That's the problem that I would see. And so we have to solve that, because landlords could be like, oh, well, you have to, I'll just fuck you right up the ass. But when it comes to, so we'd have to figure that out. But like, let's say grocery stores. If you have the money in the area and there's competitive grocery stores, which could be a problem for food deserts, but I imagine that a UBI could potentially create more, supermarkets gravitating towards areas. But supermarkets, I would say, I would hope, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but supermarkets would go like, oh, okay, like I could charge double for cheese, but then that supermarket over there is just going to not charge double for cheese. And so I would hope that that competition in those markets where there is competition for like, grocery stores or like fast food restaurants or different things like that, I would hope that those would keep the prices from going up so high that they would offset the UBI, right? But when it comes to like housing, I could see that being the bigger problem, which is kind of how things are nowadays, if you think about it. I saw something, people talk about this. This was kind of interesting, and I've been thinking about it for a while, where back in the day, having a house was very cheap, living was very cheap, but luxury goods were very expensive. Nowadays, comparatively, having a house or living somewhere is extraordinarily expensive, but luxuries are very cheap. And so it's like, the access to more money has made luxuries less expensive, but it's so fucking expensive to live in a house because there's so many limited housing spaces that are around jobs that's where the money pit is. And so I would say that like our biggest issue isn't that there's more money in the market, or isn't that we could potentially provide a UBI to give people more money. It's that housing is, to an extent, a finite space, and we have to figure out a way to lower the prices of housing, but then also to create more local economies in areas where there is no housing right now, like kind of shitty areas where like nobody's there, there's no businesses that it's centralized around. Like, how do we create businesses there? Because then that increases housing competition, and you could be like, oh, I'll move there and it's affordable. So I say housing is like one of our biggest issues right now than anything else, at least in America.
Who has escaped to Utah, okay? And it was fucking annoying. I was waiting in line, and I was waiting in line for a fucking hour, okay? It sucked. And
What are you talking about?
back in the day, I used to be like, man, fuck these guys. Like, these guys suck at their jobs. They're just like sitting around twiddling their thumbs, not
talking about?
and escaped to Utah. And I flew into Salt Lake City for the day to shoot a and sitting around twiddling their thumbs, not doing a good job. Now I'm woke. I realize that it's not because of the individual employee that's like handling this insane amount of demand. It's that somewhere along the line, someone decided that we're going to need to do budget cuts and that we're not
Yes, somewhere along the lines being the recession in 2007 and COVID.
going to be able to open up the extra lines, right? Because we don't want to pay for the salaries.
Okay,
Of,
I have to bitch about this now, and I don't care if you think I'm being petty. Somewhere along the line, so what he's talking about is there's a business, and that business is basically running off of a bare bones operation to maximize profits for the owner. That is true. That is happening, I would say, in a lot of areas. And he's like, yes, somewhere along the line they found out. It's not somewhere along the line. 2007, the economy went to shit. So a bunch of people cut a bunch of costs and a bunch of people, and they found that they could work with fewer people and that people would actually put up with it. The consumer would put up with it to an extent. Then obviously they implement technologies. Then COVID, the same thing happened again. A bunch of firings, they do bare bone structures back, and then they don't fully hire back in because they go, oh, we can work with this, and the consumer is dealing with it. And the only reason I bring it up is because like you should know that. If you were somebody who lives in the real fucking world and you're constantly preaching about like issues for the middle class, why are you not aware of that reasoning? Why don't you have like any depth in your understanding of what's happening? For some regular person saying this, I would be fine. But for somebody like a pseudo-intellectual like Hasan who's constantly like word vomiting, he doesn't have a basic understanding of anything he's talking about. That's the exact reason why. Because like the businesses found that they could, the consumer would put up with it, and that they could cut these costs because of COVID and because of like the Great Recession. Not the Great Depression, not the Great Depression, guys. The Great Recession. It's 2007 crash, 2008, whatever. I don't care. One, who cares about counting?
additional
He doesn't live in the real world. He doesn't like talk to people that are like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just fucking. I don't know.
TSA employees at the time. Same with luggage.
Like I would expect him, and I would expect everybody out there to have the expectation that he knows what the fuck he's talking about when he's talking.
Right? Like anywhere where you experience as a consumer, anywhere you experience any sort of issue, our immediate inclination is that it's actually the fault of the individual workers who are fucking lazy.
Sometimes it is. I went to the fucking place one time. I tried to get myself a raspberry iced tea with 4 Splenda. She gave me a fucking watermelon raspberry refresher. It's a goddamn.
And that's wrong. That's just simply incorrect. It is directly because
Sometimes the workers are assholes, but not all the time.
companies are corner cutting, cost cutting, and the most malleable aspect of commodity production always is going to be labor. So you cost cut by forcing 4 people to do the job of 8. Especially when you can get away with it, especially when
you have technologies that allow you to get away with it.
Conditions have deteriorated and you're fearful that you might lose your job and then lose your fucking house, or not be able to pay rent anymore. The same principle holds for the federal government as well. TSA employees are already technically federal government employees anyway. That's why I use that as an example. Trump cut a bunch of TSA employees as
Hasan, the Prada propagandist. That's funny.
well. I think it was like 300 or something. Really,
I like how it's ironic how MAGA says like these criminals are like taking our jobs, but really it's Donald Trump who's the criminal taking our jobs.
Yeah.
From federal employees.
I'm fine. Well, no, let's not. It's partially true, but let's be clear. When MAGA's talking about illegals coming here and taking their jobs, what jobs are you talking about? Fucking what jobs? Some low skill labor jobs because you don't want your goddamn kids to work because your kids are spoiled and they think it's beneath them for them to work at like a fucking fast food restaurant. So now you got a bunch of Hispanic people doing it because they'll actually do it, and you want to bitch and moan? Tell your kid to get out of the fucking house. Like,
Well, it's kind of crazy shit that's embarked on. I don't mean to like go into a whole socialism debate with you, but yeah, thanks for answering all my questions. Like, I thought that was pretty cool.
this is so cool, Hasan. Thank you so much. You're a big creator, and I'm very starstruck by you. And I don't really know about you, so you're on my platform here, sharing my platform with young people, so you can try to radicalize them because Ethan's destroying your older audience because they're starting to realize that you're a fucking moron. That's what's really happening here.
yeah, no problem.
Hasan, I got a question.
All right, let's hear
We need more affordable houses in cities, dude. Balloon houses, dude. Fucking balloon, like up. What are you talking about, bro?
it.
So, it's been funny. Okay, so it's about every like 30 to 45 days, I'll check my Twitter DMs and I'll see a new DM from you saying, "Pop out to LA and come on the show."
I'm telling you, he's desperate for this young audience who doesn't know who he is and how controversial and how much he loves terrorists and how much he laughs at the death of Israeli babies. He needs these people in his audience. We just watched him do that. This is his new tactic. He needs to go out and find successful, smaller creators and be like, hey, come here, come to me. I need you here, blah, 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 blah. He's just trying to audience capture people who are ignorant and they mean well, but they don't understand how fucking deceptive Hasan is.
And it's just been so funny because it's been happening for like 6 months. And at this point, I think it's
turn old malls into like dorm style living. That's not a bad idea. And shopping centers.
hilarious. You know, I'm no.
I told you next time you're in LA, hit me up. But you were like, "Oh, I'll come to LA even just for that alone." I was like,
yeah,
well,
bro, I'll pop on just for that.
I felt like that was too much pressure. I don't know where you live, but that's like.
It's not. Don't worry. I live in LA, so he'll come out and see me too.
Yeah, I got a $65 flight one way to LA from my local airport.
Hell yeah.
I'm sorry. It's just funny. You got a bunch of fucking kids that already live in like LA. Again, I'm not trying to shit on these people, but like these are not the guys you're going to listen to. These are a bunch of young people that very clearly are like middle class, upper middle class that never really, they had a good life and God bless them for that. That's the American dream. Why the fuck would I listen to like 20-year-olds talking about socialism? Give me a fucking 40-year-old Hispanic working 2 jobs and I'll hear you out. You know what I mean? But 2 for kids that live in fucking LA, content creators who can afford to live in LA. I don't know, dude. I'm not 20-year-olds that are successful already. Like that's crazy. When I was fucking 20-year-olds, I was screaming slurs at people on Dota 2. Even though I mean, in my defense, I was top 3% back in the day in Dota. I was really good at Dota, but there was no competitive gaming scene yet. Okay, or else I would have been a fucking degenerate.
What do you guys think about Jubilee, straight arrow news? That's my biggest gripe with Jubilee.
Oh my god, I hate
Jubilee's disgusting and pathetic. First of all, they stopped me from reacting to them. But it's all a performance piece. It's not like meaningful debate. It's a performance piece. It's like gross. It's disgusting. It's pathetic. They're just doing Crossfire. Jubilee is modern day Crossfire, and what Crossfire was basically just taking like a Democrat and a Republican to go and have a performative debate so that they can jerk off an audience, get people riled up, and then not really have any positive impact. That's what Jubilee is. Jubilee is worthless. There's no productive, meaningful, intelligent conversation going on there. It's usually the same rounds of people who are now like pretty much bound to Jubilee going on there, being contrarian idiots, while they surround one person with like 40 people to be like, hey, and they start vomiting all over themselves. That's all Jubilee is. It's just rage bait. It's not productive, it's not intelligent, and it's not helpful, it's not informative. There's nothing that's helpful at all. That's all it is. That's literally it. It's just stupid. Boomer Tank, I don't give a fuck. Jubilee sucks. They suck fucking balls.
They're fact checking so much. It's the worst ever. Also, like I think what they did with Michael Knowles here recently was pretty negligent on their behalf.
Straight Arrow News that presents itself as an impartial news outlet.
Oh, it sounds like Hasan.
Checker is actually owned by a fucking billionaire dude. I forget what his name is. Hold on, let me look this up real quick.
That's actually a crazy issue. I was literally on stream like bitching. I was like, I don't know if I'm tripping, but these fact checks are trash.
Are horrible.
Like,
I know, right?
I thought I was being dumb. I was like,
so the fact checks are right leaning,
bro. The fact,
yeah,
yeah.
Totally are.
And
Okay,
they're always like missing. They're always like missing.
Oh, I don't know what they're talking about exactly. Them being right leaning, maybe they are. I have no idea.
Always missing like incredibly important context, so they almost are purposely misleading. It's odd.
I think those are ad reads almost.
Yeah,
I almost
weird,
think that they're ad reads.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it because right now, people like are a little more conservative leaning because they're falling for the Trump like vomit dump, so they're probably just giving out bullshit. It's like basically, I would imagine that the way that Jubilee fact checks is the way that Fox News decides to post statistics. It's something that really pisses me off and really cemented it that Fox News is the literal worst and least credible news site that I've ever seen. The other day, I watched them write a quote about how well Doge was doing and that it was saving so much money. And then at the bottom, it was just a quote from Elon Musk. And just so you know, they've had to retract like 5 or 10 of their top savings because they have no facts. Doge has no facts behind what they do. And so what they're doing is they're hearing a quote from somebody who is lying, who lies constantly, putting it up and saying, this guy says this on their news site so that it seems like there's credibility to it, quoting them. And then you're like, oh, wow, this must be true. It's not. So Fox News is not real news. You can shit on MSNBC and CNN all you want, but at the end of the day, Fox News is the most popular news organization and the most pathetic news organization I've ever seen in my entire life. They know what they're doing when they say certain things. They're fucking pathetic and they're disgusting. I want to say this right now, and I want to say this for the video, and not just to the live streaming audience, because I, of course, cut the video sometimes just to talk to you guys on live. I unironically ship Nicholas DiOrio and Mika's rhetoric together. I think that they are a perfect pairing. They're both online. They have a difference in opinion, which I think could be stimulating for their relationship. Okay. She's younger than him, which is good because Nicholas DiOrio is immature for his age. So am I. All right. She's an educated woman, which means she's a little more mature for her age, which my wife is as well for me, right? A little projecting here, right? And I think that they would do great together, and they can learn and they can build together. Mika can maybe learn how to do makeup properly, and then Nicholas can learn a little more to be less self-conscious and show his face on his fucking stream. Stop being a coward. Okay? So, you know what I mean? These two would be so perfect together. And also, the only question I just have one question. Why do people make fun of Nicholas DiOrio? Because his name sounds like Oreos. When you're bypassing the better one, which is Nikki D's. That's a much better weight joke for Nicholas DiOrio. So anyway, off topic. I got a restraining order in the mail from Nicholas DiOrio, just so you know.
It's weird.
If you go on their website, the first thing that comes up on the commentary side is Dr. Frank Luntz. Do you guys know who that is?
No.
Where do I know the name?
Oh yeah,
That name sounds familiar.
He is a right-wing pollster, very famous right-wing pollster, and wears the ugliest toupee of all time.
Whoa.
And also is responsible for, I don't know if you guys watched Vice, Adam McKay's movie Vice about Dick Cheney, but there's an entire segment dedicated to him. He's responsible for
Hello, my fellow high schoolers. What is that? What does Steve Buscemi say in that movie?
things like coming up with new ways of selling the Bush-Cheney administration's insane proposals, like death tax.
Yep.
Yeah, that it used to be called estate tax, but now it's called death tax because of the likes of Frank Luntz. But beyond Frank Luntz, the entire thing
So says Mr. White Castle. Dude, I love White Castle.
is owned by. I'm trying to figure out the name of the guy who owns it. Not on the advisory board. If you look at their advisory board on the website, you'll find out that there's a bunch of right-wing people on there. But Joe Ricketts, that's the guy. Joe Ricketts is the CEO and founder of Straight Arrow News.
Hello, my fellow youth.
He is also I think he's a TD Ameritrade. Yeah, he founded the company that later became TD Ameritrade, a securities
Yeah, I love trading TDs, baby. I love titties.
industry leader that empowers self-directed investors with powerful and innovative investment tools and training.
Cool.
TD Ameritrade was acquired by Charles Schwab Corporation in November of 2019. Now, when you look up Joe Ricketts, however, on Wikipedia, you find out a little bit more about little old Joe Ricketts' political perspectives.
Is essentially what matters.
Dude owns the Chicago.
I guess the guy moved on for a second. It's okay. We don't need to hear what Hasan's saying. He's just info dumping about Jubilee.
Cubs. I don't know.
Yeah, he's not going to have great opinions
So that Hasan created Jubilee basically by reacting to them. But
in general, being a billionaire. But then you look up... Then you look up his anti-Muslim and racist email controversy.
Jesus Christ.
Dude,
And you find out that Splinter News in February 5th, 2019 released a cache of Ricketts' emails from 2009 to 2014. He wrote that Islam could not create a civil society, that we cannot ever let Islam become a large part of our society, and that Muslims are naturally in parentheses, our enemy. Included were Obama citizenship conspiracy theory emails and claims that Obama favored Islam over other religions. Included were multiple race.
me personally, you can't have a civilized society with any religion centralized around. They can exist, but they have to be more towards the outskirts, because it seems like the more religious a society is, the less rights for gay, trans, women, and children are. And I do say children because every single religion allows for child marriage, which is always abusive.
Racist joke emails that he received and responded to positively, including slurs against black and Hispanic people. He apologized for the emails after they were made public.
Why would you email that, though? Why don't you just keep it to yourself? Just tell your wife, you know?
And this is the company that does the fact checking.
Totally not biased.
That's
Okay.
actually kind of crazy.
My thoughts are,
Shit. Well, I mean, the people who do abortions used to be pretty racist too. So I mean, you know.
and I've kind of gathered these thoughts just from the 2 episodes I shot, is that all of their production team is all very
Yep.
liberal, lived out in like the best way possible. Okay.
Yep. Cool.
But then all of their post production,
What are they, like polyamorous or something?
are
Why is this guy looking? This guy, the person recording this live saw a girl on there and decided to click on them to check them out.
Like some incel 34-year-old men that lean so far right. It's it's unhealthy. Right?
Based
and that's kind of the dynamic that I've seen, because everybody in production, super liberal, super cool, super fun to work with, and honestly, pretty great people from my experience.
Yep.
But then the moment it goes to posts, that's when it gets a little bit tricky. And then one other small thing that I noticed was for the episode that I filmed, this one woke teen versus 20 Trump supporters, I had no control over what happened with the content that was filmed. It was sent to their post team.
Well, no, of course not. It's their video, like,
and it was put live on YouTube. But something I noticed was that when Ben Shapiro did his episode, they gave him and his team full editorial control.
Wait, what?
That was filmed. It was, and then one other small thing that I noticed was for the episode that I filmed, this one woke teen versus 20 Trump.
Oh, he's a one woke team versus. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought he was like, for some reason, I thought he was one of the people in the audience. Got it.
Supporters.
Got it.
I had no control over
what.
But
Ben Shapiro did. Well, that makes sense because Ben Shapiro's going to debate that. Ben Shapiro's going to be like, "I'll come on, but I want control over X, Y, Z." Yeah, of course, he's going to have like a more. He's going to have a stronger defense mechanism there.
I noticed was that when Ben Shapiro did his, what parts of it went live and what parts of it didn't go live.
And one thing that happened with that is that like they actually cut off my main debate with Ben and they put it on the second Jubilee channel. And the same thing with like my debate on politics with Charlie. They completely cut it out from like the main video and posted it on like the second account or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, at least they still made use of it, so that's good.
That
but,
is true.
That is, of course, these guys are very big content creators in general, so they probably get those assurances ahead of time, and it's in Jubilee's best interest to keep them happy. Like, I'm sure if I did the same thing, they would probably give me the same assurances as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
Hasan's running defense for Jubilee because Jubilee was like his biggest reactions for like a very long time, and they have a good relationship.
That's an indication of their right-wing leanings. But the entire concept of, debate the humanity of trans people with trans people in and of itself is already like inherently right-wing, in my opinion. Not to say I'm against that sort of thing at all. Like, I'm not anti-debate across the board, but
so then debate Ethan, pussy.
it always starts on this like faulty premise. It always starts on this like obvious imbalance. Like there was a.
If you need creative control over someone's video or channel, you probably have to say something that's alarming. Maybe that might be true. I mean, I think fundamentally it's fine. Like if like it makes sense for you to want to have that control, depending on the circumstances. Like in case you said something like out of context or something, and you would not want. See, I think that's potentially why they do it. It's like, hey, we don't want you potentially putting something out there out of context to make us look bad, so we want to have a level of creative control so that we can make sure that you're not trying to like deceive us. I would imagine that's at least the argument they're going to use.
Yes, that's what pisses me off is that debate about the existence of trans individuals already is a little bit.
They exist, dude.
But then what they do is they'll get some PR media trained in it for like 20 years, right winger.
It's making him the hero, and putting him against people who are not professional debaters. Like when they're not professional debaters and they're just randoms, and the person who's the hero is arguing that transgenderism should be eradicated from public life entirely. That's what's problematic, is that like the hero, the person who's being shown to be.
Here's what I think about that when it comes to trans people. All right, you guys know what marijuana is? Probably gotta know what that is. You guys know what alcohol is? Yeah, probably gotta know what that is. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, that's alcohol, and it's legal. Being trans is weed. So why is it that something that's less addictive, less bad for you, maybe even medicinal and good for you, why is that illegal? But the objectively bad, addictive substance is legal. And the reason I say that is because if you're I'm comparing it like that. If Christianity is acceptable, being trans should be acceptable. Because if you think about it, we got one side where it's like the conservatives like, oh, well, you're delusional. You think you're really a girl when you're a boy. Okay, if you think it's delusional to think that you were born in the wrong body, what does it say about somebody who talks to their imaginary friend every single night that tells them that gay people are bad and told one guy to kill his kids and talked to a burning bush and says slavery is okay and says child marriage is okay. And also if you violently assault children, you can still go to heaven and have eternal happiness as long as you apologize genuinely. And I'm just wondering, and I love God, what sounds more delusional to you? Oh, I was born in the wrong body. Or, please, I need my favorite football team to win. Fuck! Which one sounds more delusional to you? That's all I'm saying. You know, so you don't have to understand trans people, but I can understand. That makes a lot more sense to me. Now, I've been indoctrinated by religion, so I do believe in God, okay? I like to believe in God. But logically, being trans makes more sense. Okay, especially since you got people that are like, oh, I believe that there's like deep-seated corruption in the government and they're lying to us and there's a bunch of bad people and blah, 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 blah. So why don't you think that about the Bible? You don't think God didn't write the Bible. He had people write it for him. You don't think that somebody could manipulate the Bible? You know, these people are not very logically consistent. So, something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind.
Be like, oh, the rational person, well, there's the triggered person on the other side is shown that way. And like people didn't have an issue with it with Charlie Kirk is because we had pretty good debaters, right? Like I'm not saying no one was good at the debaters there, but like obviously there was most of the people there were not like professionalized debaters, right? They weren't like people that have platforms or things like that. You know, they weren't people that have like backgrounds debating that
master debater
type of stuff. It was just going to be like a typical person who's debating, you know, right? Or who believes that.
No, absolutely. That is very consistent with like not just Jubilee but across the board. Like the right has a network of operatives and a lot more money because obviously consolidated wealth understands the importance of propaganda and especially right wing propaganda, which is
Hasan, come on, you too.
Very effective in terms of creating distractions for people. So they fund a lot of people. Like it's not just PragerU, you know what I mean? They're very well funded. So that creates a lot more professional commentators in general. Yeah, that's why there's also a noticeable difference, I think, with like organic right-wing content creators, like that fucking old millennial guy that everybody...
Oh my God, I fucking hate that guy.
Damn, that's crazy, the old millennial. I think that his account got banned, but before it did, that guy followed me, which was fucking weird. I thought... I'm pretty sure that dude followed me. It was just so strange because I'm so not conservative. It must have just been for the edgy jokes that I've made.
On that dude. You know about OM, Hasan?
Dude, I can't believe you know about him. I can't believe you know about him.
Because I see he's just so like he does is he Gen X or millennial? I don't know. He does the millennial pause and he has that like annoying. I know what I'm talking.
The guy said that he wanted to grape me. One night he was on live.
It's horrible.
He was
I mean, that makes sense. The most homophobic conservatives are actually gay. This is not a joke, it's a fact.
Very drunk, and he straight up said that I'm pretty. I'm a very pretty guy, and if he was gay, he said this. If I was gay, that's what he said. If he was gay, that I would be a target of his.
Are you talking about older millennial?
Oh, I guess he didn't say he wanted to rape you. He's saying that he's going to go after you, which doesn't bode too well for him because older millennial is also an adult, and this is like a kid. This is like a 20-year-old kid. You know, stay in your lane, bud. It's a little strange.
Yeah.
Yes. He also said he wants to throw disabled people off of mountains.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Maybe we should. We wouldn't have gotten Trump elected then.
I guess you were talking about him because you said you're super drunk on live. I mean, he does have like 3 DUIs.
Yeah, he gets hammered like every night and then goes talking shit to other people. It's kind of sad.
If he works hard enough.
He'll work at Fox. Maybe he'll be the next Department of Defense secretary. I don't know. One day.
That guy's like, that's the thing. Like, he's too gross. He came up like organically. He didn't go through the farm corporation. Like, he didn't go through Daily Wire like Brett Cooper. You know what I mean?
Harry.
Yeah. Because Hasan grew up organically, literally, getting his job with his uncle at the Young Turks. So organic.
You want to know how he blew up? He blew up making content about Harry, about how he hates Harry.
Over winter has like 3 or 4
Harry, he hates hairy balls. He loves hairy balls. He's fucking gay.
DUI, so he'd be the next director of ATF.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's the DUI national champion. Rack him up.
You got to get a DUI. I mean, that's always been the case for Florida politics.
I got to get this grapefruit beer again. Oh, so good. Baby, we have to find this. I need it so bad. I'm addicted.
In general, so I'm glad that we're just like nationalized.
So are the gay conservatives secretly liberal or secretly straight? Gay conservatives secretly want to be topped by this is the thing you have to understand about like let me state this very clearly. Like I was saying before, every single super homophobic conservative is gay, and they want to have sex with men, and they want to legislate it away. They want to vote against gay rights because if it's not legal, then they feel like they won't have the urges. Gay conservatives want to be topped by those homophobic men while being called slurs. That's why That's why gay Republicans exist, because they want to be topped while being called like horrific slurs. Like they want to be demeaned and degraded the way that they were raised in their very conservative area. They want to be talked down to. They want to be belittled. They want to be made to feel insignificant. And that's their trauma response, because they grew up in areas that would beat them, physically and also verbally and emotionally for just being gay, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting penis, is my point. There is something wrong with being verbally abusive to people, and so that's why they vote that way. So that's that's why they vote that way. So just and by the way, guys, I don't know if you guys know this, sometimes I do moonlight as a gay conservative.
And what do you know? Older millennial lives in Florida. So
yeah, dude, that's actually crazy. I had
if he was when he was drunk, he said that he would grape you. That is also very, very Florida.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that guy sucks.
That guy fucking sucks. Designed to capture cryptocurrency pedophiles.
Papa Gut saying being gay is a choice is very self-reporting. I don't even know what you're talking about. Who said that being gay is a choice? Who's choosing to be gay? What are you talking about?
Bob,
it's so bad. I feel so bad.
How do we fix that?
We don't.
And I mean this.
It's over.
I mean this very seriously. What do we do about like cultures across our country that are just so ingrained in right-wing nonsense that just causes so much harm to so many people? How do you pull individuals out of that and somehow like turn it around? In, like for instance, like a state like Florida or some of the deep red places in Texas.
You do what we doing now, man. You vote Trump. I said this before. I'll say it again. The United States of America needs Trump. This is a fact. We need Trump. Okay? It's a fact. It's good that he's president. I'm happy he's president, because what's happening under Trump is we're finally starting to see how absolutely fucking stupid these people are for voting Trump. Okay, now that Medicare is being threatened to be cut, now that food stamps are being threatened to be cut, now that tons of jobs are getting taken away for absolutely no reason, now that Trump is sucking up to Russia and speaking poorly of Ukraine, now that he's destroying our alliances with all of our other Western countries, now that Trump is talking shit about the trade deal we had with Canada and the United States and Mexico, despite the fact that he's the one who created it in his last election. So strange. That's weird. Now that he's doing all these absolutely stupid fucking things, we're starting to be cured. We're starting to be cured. You're seeing Elon Musk make outrageous claims about how much money Doge has saved everybody. It hasn't. They've had to retract, like, I think it was like legitimately 8 of their top earning ones because they have no facts behind it. And so we need their cultural reset. The country, unfortunately, needs to get worse. We need to, unfortunately, take away Medicare and Medicaid to an extent, and Social Security, because a lot of these people are old and they are living off of these different services and they don't realize it. And I hate to say it because it's terrible, but like, these people who voted for Trump need to suffer with their own choice. These are the same people who will tell all the young people that they should live with their decisions and they should suffer the consequences. You need to suffer the consequences. And so a lot of you old people, you need to lose your Social Security. You need to lose your access to health care. You need to lose your basic freedoms. You need to suffer with the choice that you made. And it's so terrible, but you deserve it because you decided to vote this direction. And this is already happening. There's already the proposition of increased taxes on the middle class, reduced taxes on people who make over $400,000, somehow still increasing our deficit, despite the fact that Trump kept saying he wants to lower that, even though he raised it when he came in before COVID. But we don't have to talk about that. That's what needs to happen. And you're saying, Papa God, are you saying that you want barbecue to his mom to suffer? I hate to say this because I love my mother to death. My mother is one of the people who needs to suffer as well. I've never seen such an intelligent woman do something so fucking stupid in her entire life. We're talking about a legitimate threat to American democracy who tried to insurrect the government somebody who's constantly crying about how we've had everything taken away from us, about how he's lost, he actually won the election, and it's all a conspiracy. This is the person you voted for. You guys need to suffer the consequences, and it's already happening. And by the time the 4 years are over, we will have realized how fucking terrible the country was under Trump, and we need that little reset. So it's terrible for the people who didn't vote like morons, that they're going to lose some of their coverage. But I mean, it's just unfortunately what has to happen.
My job. That's what you got to
I hate to say it. I hate to say it.
do. So they just, shut the fuck up and work. But I mean, honestly, you can't really do that much. Like, I think you just have to work. I don't think it's about like fixing individuals.
Oh yeah, the right would have been better with Kamala. What happened? Like almost immediately, the Biden, Biden implemented something that like capped prescription drugs costs like insulin. Trump removed that almost immediately.
Arguing with them necessarily.
I mean, it's like one of those things where like we're complaining about egg prices, but Donald Trump is reducing funding going to different services in the federal government, like the services that try to, rail in or rope in, bird flu issues. That's what they do. Like there are like economic or there are like environmental services that do stuff like that. We spend millions of dollars a year, I think, dropping like worms in like Central America or something to fucking, I think it's to like eat certain fucking pests that kill crops or something. It's insane the things that we do, the different sciences that we engage in.
But instead, fixing the underlying material issues that create more reactionaries in general. Because if people's like immediate needs are addressed, they're less likely to go down this pipeline. There's always going to be ridiculous right-wing positions.
The funny thing is, because somebody regrets voting for Trump, Democrats is just saying that lie to cope. No, people are already starting to regret for voting for Trump. It's just more moderate Republicans, more moderate-leaning individuals. When I'm driving home with my mother-in-law, and we're talking about all the dumb shit Trump did, I could tell in her face that she does not like what's going on. That's why she stays quiet. People are changing their perspective. People who are very indoctrinated and people who are engaging, they're doubling down because they feel embarrassed that they voted for a moron. Those people are still pretending that they like that they voted for Trump. But we're only like a month in and people are already regretting their decision. So
the board. But I think the best possible thing to do is try to, make people, help people get healthcare and things like that and keep them preoccupied.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. I think you're just dwelling on the negative all the time. You see nothing good, but I think it takes time for him to build something. The problem with what you're saying is like, I don't think that you truly appreciate how stupid Donald Trump is. We're talking about destroying every one of our Western allies and then sucking up to Russia. We're talking about going against the fundamentals of what it means to be America as a country. So what, a failed businessman can come in and fuck the country up? I'm not gonna, like, this is one of the things, like, I'm not going to insist upon a lie. I'm not gonna lie to myself and say things might get better. I hope they do. They're not. He's a terrible president who's doing a terrible job constantly.
You actually make a good point there. When individuals' immediate needs are not addressed, they're more likely to go down that pipeline. Because I've always been trying to understand why the average Republican has less money than the average Democrat. And the Democrat Party is
because they're usually less educated.
Obviously going to be better comparatively to the Republican Party for those with less wealth. And I've always tried to explain this phenomenon. And I think that, you kind of explained it. It's when you don't have your immediate needs met, you're more likely to ride to the right.
Yeah.
You're more likely to have those needs met, the more money you have.
Hey, what up, Mason?
Okay.
Yo, Hank, what's going on here? But I came in because I heard some chatter going on, specifically just about socialism versus liberalism. What's going on?
We're just having
I'll be good, man.
We're just having a patriot meetup, Mason.
Yeah, there's a radical communist above my head. And Harry and I are, the sane ones.
Yeah, we got the DNC shills.
That's
I
right.
don't know what you're talking about, the communists. This guy's the biggest patriot I know.
I'm
If you
kidding.
all haven't heard of Hank Pecker, you should look into him.
Yeah.
Got some research to do.
Mason is my
Is this like a Hasan cum guzzler?
sleeper cell in all the Jubilee.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I saw that one Jubilee episode of him like sneaking in that, and I thought it was the funniest shit ever.
Yeah.
I was dying.
No, I heard like a little bit about the Michael Knoll shit, and I just have to say, they told us that the prompts were way more chill than that. It was fucking insane when he's just like, transgenderism should be eradicated or whatever it is that he said. Because like that was completely genocidal, and I don't know how they're able to just.
Well, you know what probably happened? It was the same thing that they tried to do to me. So I worked out like the prompts for my woke teen video with him for like a month. But it was like 3 days before I was supposed to fly out to LA. I get an email from the director, and they're like, "Hey, we just want to change up the prompts to make them a little bit more oriented for the success of the video." Then all of a sudden, like, then all of a sudden they want me to debate that Donald Trump will like fucking destroy America and kill everybody. And
did you sound like
yeah, that's what they do. It's a performance piece.
an NDA with him, Dean? Like, are you planning on going?
I never said he's good, but you dwell on the negative. Just put more negative energy out there. Okay, what are you, like a fucking woman? What positive thing has Donald Trump done since he got into office? I want you to explain that to me. What good thing is Trump doing compared to just literally disintegrating the reputation of our country? If Donald Trump died, do I think that JD Vance would do any better? I don't know. Vance is like he's a complete fucking pathetic coward. Like, Vance hates Trump, and he lied about liking him just to become vice president. I'm sure he would just keep going with the system. He's a fucking loser.
On more videos?
No, I haven't signed an NDA with him.
Because, like, did they pay you a certain amount of money? Because there's also allegations going around that they paid him like tens of thousands of dollars to come on. Which is
they might have, because he's popular.
I've heard that too, and I actually brought that up with Dean. Dean has never.
Alexis Rose. Those comes. Alexis Rose. I just saw her.
No tax on overtime. There is no tax. What are you talking about? That's not in any of the budgetary propositions. Him saying we're not going to tax overtime and then not implementing that, but implementing massive tax cuts for rich people is nothing. He told you no tax on overtime and you believed it because you're a sucker. There is not a single thing in the tax structure that's being proposed that would not tax overtime or tips. That was just something that you were lied to about.
In the chat, she actually might even be here. No, I didn't get paid a dime. In fact, I even paid for my own.
It's also only been a month since inauguration. Okay, what's your point? This is the problem. This is the issue. This is the problem with you guys, because I don't think that you understand. You guys vote for jingling shiny keys. When you guys voted for Donald Trump, you voted to be treated like a fucking child. Oh, hey, look at all the stuff I'm going to do. We live in a country that's been alive for quite a long time. We don't need drastic changes in any capacity. We don't need a president that's like, I'm going to change everything in the system. That's stupid as fuck. We need a president that's like, hey, we're going to try to make meaningful, positive change. This is a country, not a business. We can't shut down parts of our country for 6 months while we reorganize and restructure. That is very stupid. You voted for jingling keys. We need a president to come in and say, hey, we need to make meaningful progress to more reasonably audit the government, to find reasonable and meaningful ways to cut down on spending. We need to increase taxes on rich people so we can get our deficit into a surplus so we can pay off our debts, and we need to figure out healthcare. That's it. We don't need anything flashy. We don't need anything shiny. We need somebody to come in, make tough decisions, and then slowly move us forward in a positive direction. We didn't get that. You guys voted for have keys jingled in your face. You voted to you guys voted to infantilize yourselves. You guys voted to be stupid. It's only been a month. In this month, things have gotten substantially worse because the jingling keys you voted for decided to destroy all of our relationships with all of our other Western countries, suck off a foreign dictator of fucking Russia, and just absolutely decimate and cut back tons of things that we need in the government, like different Medicare and Medicaid is already being threatened to be taken away. Food stamps are being threatened to be defunded and taken away. Tax cuts for the rich are going to be implemented and passed in the House, while tax increases for the poor are passed in the House. That no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, that's not even in there at all. You guys are insane. You guys don't think defunding the Department of Education? An idiot fucking thought. Oh, how come the Department of Education hasn't gotten better? Test scores have gone down since 1980. Yeah, so has the strength of the lower and middle class. Do you guys know how schools are funded? Schools are funded through your local tax dollars. When you have less money in your local tax dollars, that's less money to schools. You want to know what the DOE does? They try to offset that by giving grants to these different schools that are poor, right? So, test scores are they're stagnating. They haven't gone up, and some of them are going down a little bit. Yeah, because we're getting poorer and we have less money for our school systems. It's keeping us alive. You guys just don't think about these things because you guys live in jingling key land. This is what we're talking about. You guys don't think about anything that you're doing. You guys have no understanding about anything. It's just fucking insane. So I don't want to hear any more of these fucking defense runs for Trump because you're I don't know what to tell you. You just don't know what you're talking about. You just don't.
Playing right out there. But I don't care. I love the experience nonetheless. And I doubt that Michael Knowles, Ben Shapiro,
It's probably not helping him to talk shit about Jubilee. Not that he shouldn't be. Go ahead, talk your shit. But like, they will probably see this and be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have him on.
any of those people got paid. I'll say it, like, just in conversation with them, it doesn't seem like, in a very genuine way, it didn't seem like they had the money to, you know, cover me. So I doubt it if they had the money to cover them. But it's, you know, it's possible that they.
I'm sure that they had the money to cover for Michael Knowles. Yes.
did. I wonder what, you know, what the claim is.
I mean, I think that Ben
Here-
Shapiro
here
did
my-
them more of a favor just because of how much of a like national profile he has. But they definitely help Michael Knowles because nobody knows who that motherfucker is unless they are politically like involved.
Yeah, I don't know why Michael Knowles would have gotten paid that much money. Because the thing is, they couldn't have made that much money off of the YouTube ad revenue. It's just not possible off YouTube ad revenue off of how many views the video got.
No, you don't think so? How many views did their Michael Knowles video? I mean, maybe that's true. How much money do we think that they got?
So it would have had to have been an ad read on the video, which it depends on how much they made off the ad read, right?
Well, they could make a substantial amount of money. I'll try to see if okay, so 3.7 million views. Let's see if we can look at this. So just to be clear, I did some quick math. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but this is a video here that it has 3.7 million views. This is the ones they were talking about, Michael Knowles. My video here has 17,800 views. This video, and they're the same amount of time, like an hour and 40 minutes, give or take 5 minutes. So I figured, you know, similar engagement maybe. I made $205 on that. So based on the math, that video would have made $42,000 in ad revenue. So they probably could afford, and that $42,000 isn't going to include any of the Patreon money that they potentially get, where they do Patreon locked stuff. So like, I could see them paying Michael Knowles $10,000. I could see them paying him a handsome amount of money. So sure, I'm not saying that they did. I'm just saying something to keep in mind. You know, but okay.
Hasan, would you consider going on a Jubilee episode?
They've asked a bunch of times, and they've been asking for years.
Hasan would never do that because he does not know how to debate. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. That's why he is dodging Ethan Klein. Let's be real.
I thought I would do it with like Ben Shapiro, but then I think about it and I'm like, why don't I just set it up on my own? I guess Ben Shapiro won't do it, but
he would do it. He would absolutely do it. You'd get fucking railed. Like he wouldn't. Like, this is the thing. Hasan is a drama creator, and he tries to pretend otherwise. Like, know your place. I think he knows his place. That's why he won't debate other people, because he knows it would look really bad for him. He would get rolled. Like, he debated Christian Walker. Oh, sorry, was it Christian Walker, that fucking gay homophobe, and he got absolutely rolled to the point where his trans audience was like, please never debate trans issues again. You made us look horrible. Like, of course he's not going to debate Ben Shapiro, because Ben Shapiro is wrong, but he's intelligent. Christian Walker, he's wrong and unintelligent, and yet Hasan still lost. So Hasan would never set these things up. He wouldn't. He can't be kept to task. It's why he dodges Ethan, because he would get absolutely rolled. It has nothing to do with like, oh, I don't do drama. He does. He does political drama. He just doesn't know how to have these conversations. He's a fucking loser. That's why he won't do it.
I think you should just set it up on your own.
yeah, if I, you know, why would I do that on Jubilee? Any number of different like debates that they want to put together, I could just like do on my own if I felt the need to do so. But I mean, it is good. I mean, they get a lot of views, and that's a good thing. They get a lot of TikTok clips out of it, and you know, it drives discourse for a little bit. So maybe.
Yeah, drive it in the right way. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, it just depends on like what type of content you would want to do. If that's not like stuff you're interested in, you know, that's obviously.
That's
Yeah, I mean, I don't like debating, and then I'm not a good debater. But I also will still, you know, I've debated plenty of conservative.
It's not that he's not a good debater. It's that he lies about everything.
Commentators, like both on our Fox local here in LA, and also on Politicon back in the day when they had that.
The OG Charlie Kirk debater. Dude.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen that. I've seen that.
You know, I live like a capitalist chink. That's so funny. Someone resurfaced that debate recently. And it went viral, and people were like, "This guy's lying. He doesn't make $60,000 a year. He lives in a $3 million mansion." I'm like, dude, conservatives don't understand the concept of time.
That's so real, dude. Yeah,
You literally are just like, oh, time. How does it change? You know, what happens when days go by? Like, it's a fucking debate from like 2017 or 2016 or some shit. You know,
Cool.
but
yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, but I mean, I think those are good for driving discourse, like really good for driving discourse and getting the other side involved. And I think that the more like we engage in these types of conversations, the more people will critically think about those types of things. Because I think when people go into their own echo chambers, they just like they don't critically think as much.
I think that there like definitely is.
Holy fuck. You're fucking crazy. Like, after the nuke drop, Hasan literally said, Ethan, debate me. Ethan said, "Watch the content, Nuke, and I'll debate you." And Hasan refused because he knows that if he watched it in front of his audience would be like, "Oh shit, Hasan's wrong." I don't know what you're talking about. Hasan historically dodges every single debate that he gets proposed.
A good that comes from just making these people look unhinged and stupid to like the greater public. But where is like the threshold where it becomes harmful for just like platforming insane shit? Like, I think that there has to be like a line where it's like, okay, this is not something that's like a civil discourse.
It's so interesting because like, and this no hate, but a lot of these guys' content here, especially his down here, central, and I probably Harry's, I don't know, but it centralizes around going on live and finding really dumb conservatives to like try to debate them. And like, you know, you guys are doing, and again, we react to some stuff of dumb people, so it's we do similar stuff too. I'm not saying I'm like magically different, but like this, you guys are all part of the same like engine where you pull fucking idiots on and then you debate them.
I think we do that on live all the time. Like there are certain people where we're gonna be like, okay, I can't debate this person. This person's so insane, too much, right? Like that definitely happens on the live and stuff. But and it's also like the person
most of the time they're debating those people on the live and they're like, oh, you're so dumb. Like that's the part of the thing.
Who's in the main person or like the host of it is the person that has good views. Well, it's really important as well, and also like having good arguments. If you have good arguments, it's okay to platform. If you don't have good arguments, it's not okay.
I just wanted to say real quick. I feel like I've probably like tested that line, like the most out of creators in
because you went to the extreme of the conversation.
You went to that one
talking with one dude.
Yeah, and I think I found it. I think I found the line. So for me, you know, I was told that Aiden Ross wanted to bring me on to debate somebody that was like right-leaning. You know, first it was going to be Candace Owens or Ben Shapiro even. And then, you know, I learned day of, they bait and switch. They're like, debate Nick Fuentes or we're going to get somebody else to. Then I debate Nick Fuentes. I think I fucking like destroyed him in debate. And I honestly think
I watched that. Yeah, he definitely won that debate for sure.
That conversation did him more good than bad.
You did destroy him.
Speaking, because I just made his arguments look so terrible. But after that, I ended up getting around to like Myron Gaines, and there was a point where I was going to debate Myron Gaines, but then I inevitably ended up like watching this guy go on a Twitter space and just like slur at women and minorities for 30 minutes straight. And whenever anybody would be like, "Man, you shouldn't do that," he was like, "Oh, well, you're just a beta like cuck F slur." And after seeing that, like I never ended up talking to him. And
well, there's really no reason to. I mean, like he's an incredibly dumb person who thinks that living with your girlfriend is gay. He's a grown man that's told women that were raped that it's their fault for choosing the wrong guy. He dates 19-year-old girls because he's emotionally immature and he's also weak. He's a fucking loser. And I'm pretty sure he's like a closeted homosexual that wants fucking Walter's dick in his ass.
I think the red line for me really does fall at one's ability to at least try to demonstrate their beliefs to be logical. Because so if someone wants to position themselves as a rational thinker that wants to guide humanity towards the best future, and they frame that to be
I'm an irrational thinker.
Right? Well, that's something that you could actually debunk because they uphold some sentiment of rationality. But as soon as they stop upholding that sentiment of rationality, I think that's where you shouldn't engage. But as long as there exists this collective sentiment of rationality amongst a group of people engaging in like similar thoughts, I think it's acceptable to engage with them as long as
that cloud is that's raining on Hasan's. That's Hasan raining on their parade.
You know, you're confident in your own beliefs. You're more educated than them, and you could shit on them. And that would pertain to even people like Fuentes.
I just realized, like I just told you, I was sitting in here and I was like, I should have went into this live and I should have talked. And you want to know why I didn't? I told you why. I was hanging out with my wife. Hasan, where's your fucking wife? Listen, I'm not trying to be this guy, but if you're 30-something years old and you're not like in a very serious relationship or married, I think a little interesting of you, guy or girl. I'm just saying, and you could judge me for that if you want, but there's always something weird going on there.
I see this. I'm gonna push back on this. I think, and I have also had a bait and switch with Nick Fuentes many years ago, and I see that as one of the worst moments of my career. Not because he's like a profound debater or anything like that, but because
I mean, you got beat by Christian Walker. I'm sure Nick Fuentes probably beat you there too.
I think there are ideas that is better not to platform at all. Especially because
like Hasan's
Nazis don't like open neo-Nazis don't necessarily care about the truth at all. They just want a platform. They will lie to you knowing full well that they're lying to you, and they don't necessarily care about the truth at all. And every moment that you waste arguing with them in general is a moment they're still getting in front of people and maybe even convincing them.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. We're hearing an actual open neo-Nazi talk about how bad open neo-Nazis. We understand this, right? This is the guy who mustered up a laugh when looking at the situation where Hamas strangled Israeli babies to death. This is the guy who looked at actual terrorist propaganda where Hamas had a gun to a guy's head and made him kiss his captors. One of like 6 that were left spared that were captured. And Hasan said, "Oh, I guess he took the drug that makes you kiss Hamas and like Hamas. He. Despite the fact that the guy came out and said, like, those dogs made me kiss him. This is the guy we're talking about. This is the one that's pretending, oh, open neo-Nazis are so bad. You are an open neo-Nazi. You hate Jews. That's what it comes down to. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about when he says these things. He's full of shit. He's a disgusting human being."
Influencers, I would say, is a particularly good propagandist in that vein. So I've always had a like never platform Nazi policy, with the only exception being that
just be one.
if they reach a certain point of prominence, or if they're getting like highlighted by mainstream outlets, like Richard Spencer used to get a lot of coverage from the New York Times in the first Trump era, and I would lose my fucking mind. I would do like pieces on it all the time. But with the exception of like reaching a level of national prominence, I always stay back from. I always urge people not to engage with Nazis at all. Especially if you have a large platform. You know what I mean? You don't want that shit to spread at all.
I think like deplatforming is shown to work, right? Like as much as I criticize like the Biden regime, I think that seeing Nazis off of Twitter did a lot of good towards like isolating them from being able to gain more followers. Like I don't remember ever seeing Nick Fuentes clips until the Elon takeover, and I think that that's a direct product of.
Yeah, I think like Dean, I think like a lot of problems.
Well, it's funny because Nick Fuentes, I guess Elon taking over Twitter. He's not talking about Elon taking over the country. Because weirdly enough, Nick Fuentes does not like Trump or Elon. So
Is it like Hasan saying?
I actually think that's Aiden Ross. Aiden Ross
have I seen Hasan's tweet? Which one are we talking about?
kind of like tried to like mainstream Nick Fuentes. So I think the reason why is it just there was a correlation causation sort of moment.
No, it was
like
initially destiny. He's the one who initially revitalized Nick Fuentes' career. He had him on. He like debated him at his house. They ate chicken and waffles together. He gave his phone number. He gave his fucking phone number to Adam 22 so he could go on like the podcast route and go on all these podcasts. There's like a clip of him literally being like, "Why doesn't he appreciate me more? Like I literally made his career. I gave his phone number to Adam 22," and it's just like that's what I worry about all the time when I see people that are all engaging in debate. Where I'm like, you don't ever want to lose yourself in becoming this guy that only is in it for like dunking on people. And in sight of like a greater political project that you know.
Hasan used to have more conversations. Hasan didn't stop having conversations because he had some kind of revelation where it's like, oh man, I'm platforming bad people. He stopped having conversations because he gets rolled in them by even the dumbest people.
You might believe in. I don't know what everyone's political background is here. So
yeah, Dean, it all comes back to the idea of like normalization, right? Like even if you're going in there and shitting on them and like everybody sees it as like the logical sentiment is there. Like if they get anywhere near a platform, then they're like, and you see it so much in like a macro sense. I talk all the time about like the normalization of like fucking 5 or like however many years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, like Trump's holding like an LGBTQ plus flag on stage, and we're like arguing with MAGA about how like they're like, oh, see, he loves everyone. Now that's like would be unheard of, and it's just the idea of like you start to get into these spaces where people are able to like suggest horrible.
Desensitized.
Yeah, it becomes desensitized because even if you do inevitably shit on them, then maybe like just on a one-on-one level, like you go on live and someone comes up and they're like, oh, well, I think that they're just being completely logical. Oh, I think that like Fuentes shit on you, blah blah blah, and it becomes like a normalized thing to debate when there was no debate to begin with. Like he was never coming out with logic, and what that causes is like this normalization. And so like it's exactly how on like. It's exactly
Donald Trump is a literal case study in this.
Yeah, it's exactly how the Republican Party operates, and actually how like Hasan like in some ways, even though I have disagreements with Hasan, like you've talked about like the idea like how Republicans are able to use like when they want to get something done, they don't care about the public opinion around that thing, where Democrats may view like public opinion as like weather. They need to like constantly change their views based on what people are thinking. Like Republicans knew however many years ago, a decade ago, that like being kind of this anti-LGBTQ plus sentiment at the time, at least publicly, was not nearly as popular, but they didn't care. They just started to like push it and normalize it, and now all of a sudden like it's very normal to say like horrible, awful things. And so like it's not really about. I think it's it's less about like you determining the line and more about like you like it's just constant like normalization. And if there was never a debate to begin with, like after you went on and then like the whole thing happened with Fuentes, Aiden Ross DM'd me and was like, "Do you want to debate Fuentes?" And I was like, no, because I'm obviously much smaller than you, much smaller than any of them. But again, I'm like seeing like you're already like it's just like I'm like I could do that, but you're just like bringing people. You're just normalizing a conversation that there was never a conversation being with. You know what I mean?
Chris, I was
yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking about that too because
Dean said he was going to do a full day reacting to the nuke. Maybe we'll react to Dean reacting to the nuke.
because Dean and I had like a small conversation about it, about like whether or not he should do it or not. And I was half mind of it because although I agree with you, Chris, that there's a normalization going on of it in part, but at the same time, these ideas are growing. And we need people to push back because we are losing our like memory of these things.
But why are they growing? That's the question. It's like to Mason's point, I'd also probably have many disagreements with.
They're growing because the online space is full of radical fucking morons, and Hasan's one of them. That's why they're growing. Hasan is a radical. Like that's why they're growing.
Like again, like you're seeing these things grow because like Musk gets Twitter, people stop getting deplatformed, and then all these conversations just become normalized.
Yeah. No,
so it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. As we're debating them, we're like causing them.
I think. What Matt's saying is that like the normalization comes from the fact that people have these beliefs in the first place. So you have to address that people have these beliefs. My point in terms of a content creator is that you address it if they already have like if it's already a normalized conversation and you're responding to that normalization.
He watched 10 minutes on the stream. Why didn't he finish it on the stream?
Or if there's going to be something in which causes a likelihood in which it could be normalized. So it is an effort to not to stigmatize it or to make sure that it's not normalized. Well, do you think you can engage in a conversation against it without normalizing the conversation of it in all circumstances? It depends on the frequency of conversation.
There can be a net good from like these conversations. I think if there's a moderator that represents like the Overton window or like what actually what's an acceptable exactly. Aiden Ross is not the moderator for that. But like the thing that I really criticize Jubilee on is just equivocating these positions as like equal standing. Like, oh, they're just having minor disagreements on like eugenics, or they're having minor disagreements on who deserves civil rights in this country. Like that's not a way to have a productive conversation. And to all y'all's point,
where does he watch part of the nuke?
And it just continues to normalize these positions as legitimate like disagreements. Where if you
that's wild. These guys all sound like a variation of Smaggle. It's ridiculous.
You have like somebody who's actually judging like, no, actually, this is not something that is up for debate. Kind of piggybacking on what Chris said, like this has been solved. We're not fighting civil rights anymore. These are issues that we've been able to progress from. Like this is not a disagreement that we're going to do.
Exactly.
I think we can say that from like a point in which it hasn't been normalized and it's not impacting people. But as soon as it does impact people, we have to respond to it. You know what
I think you think he's afraid of the Hasan stance? Probably.
Saying? So in order to
that's how it works. Hasan stance are just so fucking aggressive that they're so fucking aggressive. I could see him cowering for that.
And from happening, we have to respond to it, right? So like
I wouldn't necessarily blame them because they could be very toxic, but
are circumstances where I think that we would have to address it if it's impacting people. But if it's not impacting people, well, then obviously then you wouldn't want to address it and normalize it because then it could impact people negatively in the future.
But there are ways to respond, right, without having like that immediate conversation, right? Like you can make like whatever reaction video or a debunking video or however it is that you're going to use your media platform in order to address those concerns without like having to legitimize that person and bring it to like an equal dialogue. I think the dialogue is what makes it like
that's
debate. Like you can still like criticize these ideas and debunk them without having to have this person on a platform.
Matt, I interrupted Matt. Guys, I have to go back to Matt because I like brutally interrupted him when he was trying to say.
No, it's all good. No. I was just going to finish that. My reason for saying that is because there's a lack of education on the topic, right? We have reports and we have studied that among like young people today, only like 30 to 40% of them know about the Holocaust, as an example. They only know they only know. And so that's why someone like Nick can like gravitate because they don't have the basic facts, right? Yeah. Which is why I told Dean.
We're getting close to the end of this.
Like I said, Dean, I will support you in this. I think you.
I could have swore that they brought up Ethan though.
Will be fine, but you have to challenge him when he brings up like Holocaust because when you do that, you're going to demolish him because he has no facts on the side. But you have to be able to do that because people don't know the basic facts and the basic background, and that is what breeds the hatred. Is what breeds that stuff that come up. So that's why I think yes, there's a normalization going on, but at the same time, it has to be challenged because if you don't know the basic facts, then you'll just believe it.
Well, that's why I think it's like Mason said it beautifully. It's like you can do that. Like the dialogue is what normalized it. And again, I'm not trying to shit on you because like I think it's hard. Like I debated it for a long time. Like, it's not an easy thing to figure out. But like to Mason's point, it is like the dialogue, and like you see it at such a macro scale because like obviously Harry and I do like slightly different stuff than some other people in here do, just like Trump's ability and Republicans' ability to just like normalize the most important things, desensitize us. And now like somebody the other day tweeted out that like Musk was wearing a hat in the Oval Office. That was a violation of the Hatch Act, which it was. And like the funniest response was like a violation of the Hatch Act, dude. We're 50 exits past the Hatch Act. Like Trump has committed 25 impeachable offenses at least. We're looking like the most corrupt, and 70% of Americans don't even know it. Like they're still learning that like Watergate was the fucking biggest thing because again, it's just like we always start to like have these debates. They do it, they flood the zone, we all debate it, and then it's normalized. And the next time it comes up, it's like, oh, sorry.
I think you brought this up, Dean, really well. Like people like Myron and people like Nick are skilled orators, or not even skilled, but they're not even going to respond to rational thought. They're just going to try to dogpile you with slurs or whatever it is to interrupt actual coherent arguments. So I don't even think it's worth like engaging in a dialogue with them. It's just better to kind of criticize from your own platform.
You know, don't Mason. I'm sorry, Dan.
You're good.
No. My only point that would be, I'm not there if I was debating him. I'm not there to talk to Nick and convince him. Wait, you know, like I don't care about him. I'm there to like talk to the 14-year-old who's gravitating towards him, who might see his ideas okay, and I want to convince them.
Some of the 14-year-olds heard Dean spitting facts, and then was like, oh yeah, actually Dean's gay. Like I'm going to piggyback on that.
Hopefully some thought Dean was right, and now like on that.
What percent of those would have thought that?
You also think that how to get it out to people. Like so, like I would tend to say that like yeah, you probably shouldn't platform these people, but if Dean were to sit down and make a video and look at the camera and saying the Holocaust is real, we know because of X, Y, and Z, that video is probably not going to get the same reach. It reaches a video of Dean going on a Nick Fuentes being like, you're a fucking idiot, we know the Holocaust was real because of X, Y, and Z. So there has to be a balance. We could like not platform them and not debate them at all. Will that message get out, and will their message be able to get out
Oh, the video chopped off when he first came in. Oh, well, I wish I knew that. All right, I think we might be able to watch that after this is done.
more than ours? I think that's a problem.
Well, but the thing
It's
is,
like
like,
3
it would have
minutes.
never, again, like, I think back to me, but like, I don't think it would have started if, well, again, I'm not familiar with like how Destiny like relates to Fuentes at all, but just going to like Ross himself, like if Kick had like any type of fucking policy at all, that, like we had in every media company ever 8 years ago, then that dude would have never gone anywhere near Aiden Ross and would have been platformed. There would have been no 14-year-old who was like, oh wait, this is kind of sick. But like,
These ideas that are swaying the masses, these are ideas that are further radicalizing the extremist part of the internet. Like these are not all ideas.
Hold on, I want Hasan to be able to talk. He tried to talk earlier and like everyone.
Oh no, I'm gonna ask a boomer question. What the fuck is the number above my head?
oh, it's like, people are,
Yes,
Yes,
Hasan,
you almost made
yeah,
$200.
yeah, so that number above your head is $200.
Well, why are you guys giving money to a millionaire? What the fuck's wrong with you?
Someone like,
I
people
don't
can see
know.
that, yeah.
I don't know. Like,
It's not like a host, but
it does do that too. It does do that too.
All right.
Yeah, Hasan, you could cash those out.
what you should do is,
I'm hilarious.
Show some money.
So this is
Chris.
almost like
I mean,
Sorry, he's gone now.